1 minute up. Hey, we're live. Welcome to the Ripple live stream. I'm Steve Harper, and with me is my co-host for this evening's event, my friend and my editor and my muse, Mark Schwartz. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well, although I think that's the first time I've been called a muse, so I'm not entirely clear how to take that.
Well, you take it however you want to take it. I'm just gonna say. I mean, you teased this concept out of me so many years ago, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you every time that we've come back to the table to work on it again. So we're here celebrating the release today officially of the Ripple Effect, the third edition. Maximizing the power of relationships for your life and business. And this is going to be a fun night. We're going to have some special people drop by and kind of visit with us as we kind of are releasing this for the first time today. The book itself is actually available at ripplecentral.com. Just so that you, if you want to go check it out, you want to go learn about it, there is a free chapter that you can download. But we thought we'd throw this because normally what we would do would be a typical book launch, right? We'd do a party. We'd all be getting together, having a few drinks, talking about, the book itself, kind of explaining a little bit about the motivation behind it. But, where we are right now with COVID, it's not possible. But through the benefits of technology, here we are. So it's exciting to be here nonetheless. And so I'm grateful that you agreed to do this for me tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. And I guess it is, it's just sort of maybe the appropriate at this point, because so much of this book was born in this environment, dealing with the realities of COVID and how that's affected the Ripple and how it's affected Ripplers. And so to do a launch party this way, I guess that's just the way that it's going to be, right? Feels maybe kind of like this is the right course of action right now. So
absolutely. Well, I've had people ask me, why, when the second edition has continued to do so well, did you guys feel compelled that, to do another one? And it's kind of funny because right now, I think when we started talking about this, maybe 2 years ago, we started collecting some Ripple stories. We didn't know exactly how we might want to utilize those in the future, but the stories were relevant at the time for sure. But then as we moved forward, we started to look at the use of social media. And then, of course, over the course of this year, we've been thrown into a very unique situation with the pandemic. And that has challenged people, even the best of connectors has challenged them to figure out how to stay in front of their network, how to stay connected to the people that are most important to them. And I dare say it. And, I said this on a podcast that I was recently interviewed for. Even the most introverted and shy people, myself included, have found that they're so desperately needing a hug right now. So we recognize that lack of physical contact that we are so accustomed to, or that we could go to at a moment's notice, right? You could go to a networking event, you could go to different business functions. You had the people that you saw at the office or around your work environment. And now some of us don't have that, or a lot of us are still, struggling to be able to have that sense of normalcy. We really are longing for it right now.
Yeah, I think that it shows us how much we took it for granted,
Yeah.
particularly in a city like Austin, where there are always opportunities and always great places to meet up with people. And it was just so much a part of the work-life culture of the city. And now, having been denied that for what gone 7 months and change now,
Yeah.
you really do, you miss it, and you realize just what an important part of your life. And I'm with you. Even if you weren't somebody who felt like you thrived on it or took advantage of it regularly, to not have the option it certainly made me sort of have to reconsider the value of relationships even in my life, and people who are close to you, and how you do try to forge those connections despite the challenges.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's a wild time, that's for sure. And the book, I think, reflects some of the challenges, but also some of the opportunities that come with that.
Absolutely. And this is the book that we're talking about. This is The Ripple Effect, Maximizing the Power of Relationships for Your Life and Business, the 3rd edition. We are super, super, super proud of this book. It has come packed with new stories, new strategies, new ideas, like we're talking about, very relevant for today's time and world. But I've got to ask, Mark, I mean, how is it that you put up with me for 3 editions of this book? I mean, I know that I am an absolute challenge there.
Actually, I got to say that the first one, I think, was in some ways the hardest, because that was where we were trying to wrangle the concept. And I tell the story, Steve, when we first sat down, because you said you wanted to write a book. I came out of conversation feeling like you really wanted to write like 4 or 5 books, because there was just so much. It was like there was kind of a sales piece, and then there was this sort of life coaching piece, and then there was, at the heart of it, this really relationship centric piece. And that was what we gravitated to, because it seemed like everything else hooked onto that in some way. But that was the challenge. I was really terrified that we were not going to really be able to capture your voice. And and here we are, 15, 16 years later. So I guess we've done okay with that. But it's been great. It's been a fun journey. It's been fun for me to watch how the Ripple has transformed your life and your career, and also how it's affected all of these people across the planet, really. Because
Yeah.
I think about that first, we sat down over coffee, right? I mean, it was like the Ripple. We met each other at a networking event. We got to know each other, having breakfast once a week. We
Yep.
sat down to do this. And, I mean, did you ever anticipate that it was going to lead to some of the particular events and effects that it has?
No, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I really thought we would sell a couple hundred books to friends and family, and then my dad would buy the rest of the inventory. And so it would be over. Right. It has been beyond my wildest imagination how well this book and this concept has gone, and where it's gone, and all of the amazing, like you said, the amazing people and the lives that it's touched. And so I think, I had somebody ask me recently, when we sat down to work on the 3rd edition, was this, what did we feel like, maybe we still had some work left to do? Was there still more to cover? And I think that the ripples that this book has created, both in the corporate world and for people's personal and professional lives, it's been really humbling to see how people have taken hold of this book and this concept. And I have people that constantly reach out to me and say, hey, I'm doing my best to create a positive ripple out there in the world. I'm doing what I can to engage and connect with the people that I meet and see in out there in the world, and it's so critical to know that it's okay to do it. And it's okay to do it not necessarily with pure profit motivation or a business agenda in mind. And that, I think that was really in the intent when we sat down. I've got to give you credit, because when you were talking to me at the time and we were looking at, full disclosure, it was going to be a sales book, or if you recall, right? And it was going to be, you asked me, why did I want to do a sales book? And it was like, well, because people that are coming into a sales profession don't really understand what it takes to be successful. And that's about building relationships. And those that have been in the sales game for a while, obviously a lot of them are looking for new ideas and strategies to remake their career. And that also comes back down to how you build relationships with your prospects and your clients. And we looked at, that aspect. And I think we wrote a little bit, worked on a little bit of the content around that initially. But then you sat down, and I remember we were at the Daily Grind in Round Rock, and you said, why were you successful as an entrepreneur? And I had to think about it. And I said, well, I think that because of my approach, which is to be fairly shy and introverted, but I keep my eyes, open and my ears tuned for opportunity. And I always try and contribute in some capacity, in some little way. You said that's like the ripple. That's the ripple process that you do. You are the ripple guy. And I remember that day distinctly. That's where we got the title. That's where we got the motivation, because every action, every effort that you take on behalf of someone else, you're creating that positive ripple, and those ripples ripple out, but you never realize how far and how wide they go, but they always ripple back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that meeting really is one of those that stands out for me. I've done a lot of different projects with different authors who've had different degrees of success in bringing their vision to the world. That one, it just clicked, man. It was just like right there, in this sort of synchronicity where the visual and the concept really just matched who you were. And I feel like watching, I'm so proud of you in the year since, because you have always described yourself as an introvert. And of course, what this did was to not just give you a platform to share the message, but, really, I would argue an obligation to share the message. And so you felt like you had to push yourself out of the comfort zone to go out there and to talk to groups of people about what the ripple looks like and how they access it. And that was really uncomfortable for you, I think, early on. And it's impressive. Here we are, a decade and a half later, and I feel like you've really become the sort of apostle of rippling in the best possible way. Like, you're out there, and you have so much authenticity to bring to it, and and because of the nature of it, so much validation from people whose lives have been positively impacted by the book, by the concept, by the workshops and the coaching that you do. And that's all fed back into it. So it's not just sort of your story anymore, right? It's this accumulation of a community. And I think that's really cool. And I'm proud that, when we did the second edition and now with this edition, every time we always get these new, really fantastic stories to be able to include about what the ripple means. And they are astonishing. And, they're not things that I would ever expect sometimes, but they're just great. And then we do it, and we finish a book, and we hear about more ideas, and we're like, oh man, that's why we got to do another edition, because we got to have like more of these just to put in. It's a crazy sort of perpetuating cycle here. And like you said, yeah, you push it out, it comes back, in some form or fashion.
Absolutely. Well, to think where this little book has gone, right? Where it has traveled all around the world. I mean, the number of countries that I can put on a map that, I've got people that have found the book because somebody recommended it, or they read about it, or they, somehow saw something that I did that they were intrigued enough to come back to was pretty amazing. But to know that it's at Ohio State as a textbook, at Belmont University as a textbook, Austin Community College has used it for a lot of years, and they're all excited to get this new version because it's just going to build additional value for the course material. It's really humbling because, to think, and you got it early on. I have to give you credit, because I had little confidence that anybody would care what I had to say. And you helped frame those words in a way that allowed people to recognize the importance of the concept and what a difference it can make to them. And that, it gives me an enormous amount of pride. I mean, not only have we had this professional relationship, but we've had this great friendship for a lot of years, and we build upon those ripples. And even though this edition has more stories and more strategies, and I think is our best work to date, I know that the ripples will ripple out, and there's other things to be told, and other ways to communicate this message. And we'll work on more books. But the number one proud thing that I've had is being able to emphatically recommend you to anybody that's thinking about writing a book, because you're just that good. You're that amazing. And you've worked with Tom Magnus, you've worked with Asha Prasad, you've worked with a number of other folks that I've referred to you along the way. And every single one of them walks away knowing that they're better for the experience because they had you right there with them. So,
well, that's very kind, and I really appreciate it. Like I say, it's been a tremendous privilege just to be sort of have a front row seat to this, and to be able to see how it's transformed your life and how it's transformed so many others. And it's been a really interesting. I think when we did it, it was a really interesting time because it was before the advent of social media. And
yeah,
so we were talking about this, right? Sort of, just in response to a lot of business networking. What's happened in the years since then with the pervasiveness of social media and a lot of the attendant negativity that comes with it. I think
yep,
that's one of the reasons why this has been such a sustaining force. And there's still this desire to read more about it. Why a third edition? Because we see the downside of a lot of that out
yeah,
there. And this is a different model. This is a different philosophy that offers a counterpoint that is authentic and overwhelmingly positive. And
absolutely.
so, I think that like the timing was just so incredibly well situated, and that's part of it. I think you're a great messenger. I think the timing was great, and I'm just excited to see where this holds.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, so I mentioned that we have a lot of surprise guests this evening. Fellow Ripplers that have really taken the banner carry forward for us. I am proud to welcome in Cynthia Berg to the stream. Cynthia and I really have, in so many ways, we have connected as friends, as professional colleagues. But you want to talk about somebody that is a true Rippler in the world. We're going to get to meet her right now. Cynthia, thanks for joining the Ripple live stream this evening to celebrate the launch of the book.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah.
Hello from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is it snowing?
No, it did snow. We still have some drifts from the, people who shoveled or plowed. So, it's gotten a little warm, but we'll get more snow later this
Yeah.
week and, for the next 6 months. So,
Yeah, it'll be it's definitely going to be a chilly winter there for sure.
yeah, we can take it.
Yep. Definitely, you can. Well, so Cynthia and I met, and Mark, you may remember meeting Cynthia at one of the 8-minute ripples, but Cynthia came to an 8-minute ripple a number of years back, and we just kind of struck up a friendship. And she relocated to St. Paul, Minnesota, and is doing amazing work up there for a nonprofit. And she's had her own coaching business, and she works in does classes to help people with the writing process. So you guys have that as a common connection point without question. But one of the things that I most admire about you, Cynthia, is that you are probably one of those people that really looks and understands the concept of the ripple to carry that forward and to really to apply it to every interaction that you have with anybody, whether it's someone that you don't know, but you met on social media, they've attended one of your classes, or they've just come upon you in life or in work. You have this unique way of really connecting with people. And so I kind of like to hear your take on what the ripple is, what it's meant to you, and ultimately kind of how you leverage it for your own, personal and professional benefit.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. I'm like you. I feel like I'm an extreme introvert. I have social anxiety. I don't feel like, I'm a natural. And I just remember, I think it was like around 2007 when
Yep.
I was going through divorce, and it felt like all of our friends were his friends because I'm not really like this terrific friend maker. So it was such a great deal getting married because then suddenly I had friends, that had to like me because I was this guy's wife. So, when we got divorced, it was the reverse of that, which is like, mass exodus of everybody I seem to know. And I realized at that moment that I had the whole time I had been married, I hadn't really been doing the work of relationships. I hadn't been really going out and trying to meet people. And when I did meet people, I wasn't really engaging in a way that, was sort of meaningful and memorable,
Yeah.
So I ended up kind of out there on my own. And just through some searching, I found you. And I remember this, email I wrote, which is like, please help me, like I don't know how to do this anymore. And that's when you invited me to the Ripple events, which was like the best thing that could happen because it was like um, drinking from the fire hose of learning how to relate to people. I mean, you go and you have to engage in conversation with people every 8 minutes, so there's this like volume of practice that you get at one of those events. And so I got it, when I went there, I was like, oh, I get it now. Like the questions, yes, questions, right? You have to ask people these deeper questions.
Yeah.
And I went out and I got your book, and I just wanted to show you like the first
Oh,
edition,
wow.
That's awesome.
and it's well worn with a little coffee stain on the corner,
I
and
love it.
creased, little dog ears on pages and things. So, I just wanted to, I was there at the
Yeah,
beginning
you were there.
and, loved it. I was like studying it like a student, like I gotta figure out how to do this. Um, and at that time I was also, I mean, divorce is such a kick in the ass,
Right,
like
right.
everything changes. And so I was changing careers, also was considering becoming a coach, which for somebody who's not keen on relationships was kind of a weird choice because coaching is all about the
Yeah.
relationships. So, I was studying to be a coach. And so, again, with the questioning and the different kinds of skills that you have as a coach and deep listening and really trying to understand where people are coming from and not trying to fix it for people and not always being in it for yourself and, being very generous um, with your engagement with people, your time, and what you're noticing about them, and all of that stuff. So I guess it was just time for me in life to learn all about it. And I think one of the things that when I first read the book and I read that section about what, are you a connector, or are you a persuader, or are you a maven? And I was like, definitely the maven. Like
Yeah,
I love information and I love learning, but I'm not like, it's not natural for me to be a connector. If anything, I I slip into the persuader from time to time. Um, but I realized that as a maven, I was just gonna have to work at this probably all my life. This was never gonna feel like natural to me. I was gonna have to figure out how to do it, and I was gonna have to practice.
yeah,
And so that's what I try to do. I think in life, just in general, anyone that I run into, I see it as an opportunity to practice. And I always wonder if I might be the right person at the right time for them. Like what it's not all about what I'm going to get from this person. Like maybe they'll be a customer, or maybe they'll be a
yeah,
mentor, or maybe they'll, sell me a house, or maybe, but I wonder if there's something I have to offer that they might need right now.
yeah,
So, I think just sort of for me, it was kind of switching it around. And instead of always wondering what this person might do for me, it was about, hey, this person could really need me right now. They could really need a listener. They could
Yeah.
really need a friend. They could really need a hug. They could really need, somebody to help them with their business. Um, so I think that's the practice for me, is just when everybody I meet, remembering to turn it around that
Yep.
way. And that makes me a little less anxious, a little less nervous about it.
You
And
know that.
obviously, it's the questions, that I think help in my practice the most, having a
Sure.
pocket full of really good questions to ask people, questions that elicit like who they really are as a person. And that's what I'm really interested in anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just having really great questions lined up.
Well, and I think you and I are a lot alike. I think Mark would probably agree, him knowing me as well as he does for as long as he has, that you and I aren't comfortable being, at the front of the room per se, or in the spotlight, but we're really good at asking questions because the questions really tell the tale, right? They
Mm.
tell the story, and if you do it right and you have the right approach, you can get people to open up and share so much, and that opens up just a plethora of opportunity for you to take a conversation one direction, or to solve or find a problem that might need fixing, which as a maven is a big thing for you, right? And I kind of am that same way. I kind of like to deconstruct and kind of figure out where I can add value, and do what I can to contribute. And it really took Mark kind of pulling that out of me about casting that stone. That stone was the action. The action creates the ripple, and the ripple ripples out, and it touches ways that you don't or can't possibly imagine. But then it always does have this weird tendency to come back to you in some odd perspective. And so I think that when I first met you, I would say that you probably didn't give yourself enough credit, because you were incredibly approachable, even though you might have like been a little bit reserved and a little bit more introverted, kind of like me. You made it easy for people to have a conversation with you, which I think is one of the key factors. And I think you do that because you're pretty good at trying to figure out how to deconstruct who that person is, and look for ways to contribute to them in some capacity.
Yeah, I think I care deeply about people, even people I've just met. I I just I care about them, and I don't think people really want to believe that that's possible unless you like earn it somehow. Like you have to
Yeah.
earn somebody's care, and I just care about people. And
Yep.
so when people are telling me a story about what happened to them when they were 5, I'm like so glued to that. I'm so into that, and I want to know, and I care about that stuff. And just, being a deep caring person doesn't make it easy for me. So um I think that I do well when I can do the practice.
Yep.
Uh, if I can get outside of my inner voices and just say yes to being in a conversation with somebody and not, hang out in the corner with a drink,
Yeah.
um, I can actually get into some really meaningful conversations. And I appreciate it when somebody's listening to me with a great deal of care. I can feel it.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's what I try to offer in return, um, is just letting people know that, I'm not trying, this isn't a business deal,
Yeah.
you know, this is a real person to person connection. And that's why I love the questions, because they're not about the business. In fact, one of my favorite questions is to ask people what's not on your resume.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
What's not on your resume? Um, People are full of stories about things that they've done, adventures that they've had, things that you did when you were 6 that you're really proud of, and they don't make it on the resume.
Yeah.
But it's still a big part of who you are.
Absolutely.
Um, and so I think about the things that aren't on my resume. You know, I ordered a solo I did a solo trip 36 miles down the Arkansas River. And, like I don't know when I think about that, but every once in a while I do. And I'm like, that's a piece of me that nobody knows about,
I didn't know
I,
until just now.
and a lot of people don't know that I was in the Marine Corps, and that was like 4 years of my life. And it's on my resume, but it's not, super prominent. It was a long, long time ago. But like things like, I've been sober for 20 years. That's not on my resume.
Yeah.
But that's something I work at every single day. So, and, when I was a drinker, it was easy for me to meet people.
Yeah.
But then I got sober and, oh my God, how does this work, without a drink beforehand, So, and I just had to get real with myself. Like, this isn't ever going to feel like a natural thing. I'm not going to walk into a party and be like, turned on,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm going to have to work at it. I'm going to have to
hear
think
so
about it
many
beforehand.
I've heard so many stories like that from people who've read the book. I think that, that's the difference between like standard business networking and what the Ripple offers, is that it's not about being on, it's not about presenting, it's not about that business card swap. It's really about making yourself vulnerable, which is really risky. It's powerful, but it's risky because it's sort of getting out there and saying, here's me and I want to hear about you. And so for people who are genuine and really are very much interested in, helping other people, I think it's a great mechanism. And I think it's one of the appeals that it has for folks. But yeah, it's a different mindset.
Absolutely. Well,
I just want to thank you so much, Steve, for the friendship all these years, for sort of coming to my rescue in the beginning and getting me your book and your second edition and your third edition, and letting me kind of hang out as one of your biggest fans all these years.
Thank you.
And terrific.
I appreciate that. I have to share a comment that Christina Brewer just put up on Facebook. I'm cold just thinking about that snow. She's in Spain up late, obviously watching this, but she's a former soccer player of mine. But you'll love her one of these times when you both are back in Austin. You guys will have to meet. But I thought you get a kick out of that. Thanks for joining today, Cynthia. I really, really appreciate it. I just can't tell you how honored I am to be your friend, and I'm so proud of you in every way. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so proud of you too. This third edition's just fantastic.
Thank you very much. We will talk soon.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
And next up, we have the amazing Liz Hanlon. Liz is kind of ironic. It was like Cynthia set that up for talking about what's not on the resume.
She did. I really enjoyed her talk.
Pretty awesome. Yeah. So just a quick story about Liz. Liz and I have known each other for a lot of years. We have a couple of things that I talk about are connection points. Those are things that you learn about people that you utilize as it's kind of it makes them unique to you, right? It could be, something that they're passionate about. It could be their favorite sports team. It could be, a number of different things. And Liz checks all those boxes plus some. I see in the back of on the chair, she and I are both Cubs fans.
Yeah.
Yes. And a few years back when the Cubs actually went to the World Series, Liz went to the division championship playoff, or to the division championship.
World Series, actually, Game 4.
That's right. Yeah. But you got me the one when they played the Dodgers. You brought me back the hats and you brought me back the t-shirt. Yeah. And just this showed up one day just out of the blue. And she's like, I was thinking about you. Go Cubs. And I still have that. And I still have that card and the note that you sent me recently with another item that you had sent. You're just phenomenal. You get this whole Ripple thing. You do it so phenomenally. But thank you so much for being here tonight. I greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I was really honored when I got an email saying I was one of your favorite Ripplers. to be anybody's favorite at anything is a huge honor. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you're one of these people that I could have lunch with, and lunch could turn into lunch, into happy hour, into late dinner and nightcaps, because you're just so fascinating to talk to and so amazing. And you've done some incredible things throughout your career. But the interesting thing I find with when I talk to you is I learn something almost every time about your approach to life and to work. And you have this really amazing giving spirit, which is, I wouldn't say it's hard to find, but it's unusual people put it out there as front and center as you do. And that makes you who you are. I think it's a beautiful characteristic.
Well, the notion of rippling is near and dear to my heart, because as I was listening to Cynthia also, it's about listening and actually caring about people's stories. You can't really fake that. And it's about not asking, your first question shouldn't be, where do you work? Or what do you do? It should be your favorite sports team or something else that's a conversation starter. And when I work on a resume, or really have almost any interaction with people, I don't know why, but I'm looking for a way, some kind of value that I can add. And when I met you and I found out you were a Cubs fan, I was so excited. It's like, well, I can bring back a t-shirt from the stadium. You can buy one online, but it's so meaningful if it's from the stadium.
Yep.
And so I just really enjoy doing that. Like, it gives me pleasure, but I've also realized the benefits of it over something like 30 years. Because when I first started my career, I was at the Federal Reserve in Chicago, and I was a recruiter. And the way I actually started writing resumes is really sharp people would come in and would have with crummy resumes, and I would know that they were right for a job in a certain area. And I would also know that the hiring manager was never going to look at their resume. So I rewrote it. And as a result, I don't know how many people, but more than 20, let's just say 30 people got jobs, and it really launched their careers because they were usually pretty young in their careers. And we've all stayed in touch, and they've expressed gratitude over the years. And so it's just looking for those things. I didn't have to do that. I could have easily said, sorry, you're not going to get this job. And, I liked them and I wanted to help, and, what the heck? Why not? I could do it. And now when I write somebody's resume, and I have a policy, as you know, I only take on people that I like. And I mean, sometimes somebody sneaks past that turns out not to be very nice. But most of my clients are very nice people, and sometimes they're clueless about how to look for a job. Now the internet has confused them, because a lot of people have never had to look for a job. And so then they think, oh, I'll put my resume on the internet, I'll find a job. And it doesn't work that way. So I love being able to give them advice about how to look for a job or make a connection for them. I just did that today. I found some female mentors for a really sharp client of mine in DC. And she's just, seriously out of this world. And it's no skin off my nose, right? In fact, it makes me look good. And it takes a little bit of effort. But the thing is that anytime you listen to somebody and find out what their needs are, and you can help them, you look good too.
Yep.
Like being a good manager, giving credit to your employees, you look good. It doesn't look good to hoard all the accolades for yourself. And I find it so rewarding and so much pleasure, and it pays dividends. I mean, the way I was able to start my business was I sent out a resume, or not a resume, I sent out an email to, everyone I knew basically in 2004. And were so many of them that I had helped, or recruiters who had come to rely on me for great referrals. And so the business started seamlessly, and I've never really had too much of a downtime.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The thing I find amazing about you is that, and I've sent a few people to you that said, wow, that was tough love that I needed at the time that I needed it. Because I think people have this, sort of over dramatized way of explaining what they do in a resume. It's either too much or, too highlighted or whatever the case might be. And you kind of cut through all the BS and actually help people figure out how to communicate their true value into a written document that will get them noticed. And I think that's a huge testament to you, but you only get there because you actually take the time to learn who they are as individuals first before you actually worry about what they have on paper.
Well, one of the things I learned early in my career is that people really just want to know, why didn't I get the job? And you smelled bad today. You shower next time. They just want to hear. They don't want to get an anonymous, rejection letter. They just want to hear. And so sometimes the tough love is the difference between getting a job and not getting a job. If it's something that they can fix. I mean, if it's somebody who's just stupid, in the words of the comedian Ron White, you can't fix stupid. Don't tell them that, because they can't fix that. But, I was reading your book, and one of the things, I'm looking at the clock because I don't want to, push the time too much.
You're good. Yeah.
But you talked about when you start something, if you get a promotion, think about the end. How do you want to be remembered? And I have this great story. Well, it's not my story. A friend of mine was a commander of the USS Benfold, which was a destroyer in the Pacific Fleet. And he'd gone to Annapolis and had spent his entire career, doing whatever he had to do to get promotions. And he's not proud of that. Well, he got to the Benfold, and it had really been harshly managed or mismanaged by the previous commander. And so when he stepped on the boat, he thought, you know what? All these other ways I've been managing just really haven't worked. And now I'm looking at the effects of poor management. All of these guys, when the guy left the boat, there's always a ceremony, and they jeered. They were so glad to see him go. And Mike thought, I don't want that to be me. So he set up a process where he asked each employee, I don't remember, there were a lot, and it was it wasn't a convoluted process, but it did take some time. What do you like best? What do you like least? And what would you change if you could here on the boat? And he got some great suggestions from the people on the ground, and it was able to save money. And he took it from being the worst ranked ship in the Pacific Fleet to being the #1 ship and the winner of the Spokane Trophy.
Wow.
And so when he left, they cried. They were sad he was leaving. And so what Mike always says is, do you want to leave to jeers or tears?
Oh, that's great.
And I don't know about you, but I'd rather leave to tears than jeers.
Yep.
I want to see people. I don't want people to say, gosh, good riddance.
Yeah.
And, your book made me think of that, because there's so many people that don't think about the end game. How do I want to be remembered? What are the outcomes that I'd like to see from my performance? And I've never thought of work in corporate America in that exact way. I mean, I think about the Benfold that way because this friend of mine, has told the story so many times. But I think it's great, and it wasn't natural for him, right? Like he had to create a process.
Yep.
For asking people. But whatever it is you have to do, for me, it comes a little bit more naturally because I'm curious about people's stories. I'm curious. I'm always looking for that opening, like, how can I help you? And that's more intuitive than anything else. I'm not trying, I'm not faking it. And if I don't like you, then you can forget it. If you don't seem like a nice person or a poser, the kind of person that does and says whatever it takes to get ahead, but really somebody else is doing the work and they're taking the credit, those people are the ones that I hate the most.
Yeah.
So if I think you're that kind of person, I will not help you.
I love that. And Cynthia just saw jeers or tears thinking about the end game. Always awesome stuff right there. For that, that's so true.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate, we're right up against the time, but I wanted to say thank you so much. You have contributed so much to my life and to the clients that I've sent you. You really have, you've been amazing. And I really appreciate everything that you've done just to really set this relationship apart from the business relationship that we've had, to really create this genuine friendship, because you are one of the most honest and direct people I know, which I appreciate and love. And you are the one that will always be there to answer the phone when you call, and you take care of business. And I love that. And your clients highly, highly respect you for it because you are good at what you do. And so I appreciate you, being here tonight, but most importantly, I appreciate you being my friend.
Well, right back at you. And I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm honored to be anybody's favorite at anything. And go Cubs.
Go Cubs. Absolutely. Well, Liz, thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you very soon.
Sounds great. And as soon as we can get lunch, let's do it.
Absolutely. Gosh, I hope it's soon. We have a lot to celebrate. So
yeah, right.
Yep. Next year's World Series in advance. We'll celebrate that.
Yeah, I'm not celebrating the Dodgers all that much, although they did deserve to win. I will.
Well, at 7:00, you'll get to talk to you get to see a Dodgers fan and a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So you might hang around to enjoy his. I'm sure he's got some witty commentary coming for me.
Yeah, somebody just posted. Earl Hager posted. Dodgers.
That's him.
Yeah, I need to shut my mouth about the Dodgers. I really don't.
You'll love him. I'll introduce you.
They're just very angry fans. That's my only.
That's right.
Okay.
Take care. Ripple on, Liz.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Coming to the stream, Mark. I think you and I have talked about this fine young lady a couple of times, but I met Jennifer Garcia. I'm going to bring her into the stream really quickly. Jennifer and I met when she was working at Texas Monthly, basically running the whole publication. She decided all of that. She discovered Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, she's done so much, but she and I have been kindred spirits on a lot of levels, including UT football. And I even talked her husband into playing keeper for my men's indoor soccer team for a period of time. And he doesn't call me anymore. He doesn't talk to me because of that experience. But Jennifer, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Steve. It's always a pleasure visiting with you. And honestly, Cynthia and Liz are tough acts to follow. So I don't know if there is anything I could do or say to top that. Seriously, they're phenomenal.
Well, yeah, you are as well, because you have actually taken Ripple in your career. You have leveraged these core tactics and strategies to really benefit the teams that you've organized and worked with. And you've accomplished some ginormous things, not only when you were with the publication, but even beyond that. And, you organized, one of the projects that we talked about most recently, you were working with some women in a nonprofit and kind of organizing an event for them and you weren't really even necessarily technically getting paid to do it. You were doing it out of the kindness of your heart. And that's the kind of person that, that you are. And what totally impressed me about you when I first met you is that you always show up with this attitude and this approach, like I'm here to help. What can I do? And so when I think of Ripple, I definitely think of you, because you are one that is a ripple maker for sure.
Well, I learned from the best, but two things. One, I heard this was a happy hour event as well, and I haven't seen
it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking, for those of you that may not know, it's a michelada, and I don't know how many of you.
Oh yeah.
They're also known as bloody beers. Basically, it's a Bloody Mary without the vodka, but with beer.
Yes.
So I thought I'd bring that up because they're particularly delightful when you're going to a UT football game, pregame.
Absolutely.
Now that
you guys have one of the best tailgates on the planet. Let's just be honest. I mean, you want to talk about ripples being made? That's the ripples that are being made there for sure.
That is true. My husband and I were known for throwing some pretty big tailgates for probably about, I'm saying my age, 20 plus years now. But
absolutely.
This year was but that's okay. We're doing it on our own at home. One other thing before we talk about other opportunities, I just had to show something for you all. I've known Steve, I think, since about 2006.
Yep.
But you made an impact on me in particular at a Ripple that I went to, where you may not remember this. I don't know if anybody can see this. Oh, you can't.
Oh, yeah. If you hold it back a little bit, we can kind of see it.
Okay, harder to see. I'm going to try. Let me just tell you. So Steve, as part of this Ripple, had us all write letters to ourselves. I don't even know if you remember this, Steve.
Yeah.
This is that letter, 2010, 2011, right? I still have it. And you made us write down what we accomplished that year and what we hope to accomplish the following year. And I happen to, fortunately, you can't see my drawings because it looks like something my kindergarten children back then would have drawn. But it was a clock for more time. Like, I wanted to use my time wisely.
Yep.
Books. I wanted to read not just for personal pleasure, but also to further my career. A couple of Longhorns, always.
Always.
But I had on here Mickey Mouse ears. I wanted to travel and I wanted to do something with my family. And I don't know why. I just was sketching and I drew them on there. I had only been to Disney World when I was in 8th grade. So that tells you how long it had been. Anyway, I was laughing as you were telling us to do this. And then you collected all these and said, all right, I'm going to mail these to you so you can see what you've accomplished. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, rippling and talking to people and some folks that I knew, it happened like within 6 months. I got a contact out of nowhere through that Ripple of saying, hey, I know someone, one of my clients actually has a timeshare in Florida and they're not going to do anything with it. It's right outside of Disney. Does anybody want to use it? I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I had you in the back of my head, like, Jen, you got to do this. You got to do this. And actually, I bring that up because I think you were one of those folks that made me sit down and really think through, what are my priorities? What do I want to accomplish? And how do I get there? And don't be afraid to take those risks. So I still have this in my personal file folder that I look at from time to time. And now I got a reason to bring it out.
Oh, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. You're going to have to send me a picture of that. We'll have to post it on social because I would love to have a copy. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I just interviewed Kathleen Evans from Costa Rica for my podcast.
Oh, yes.
And she talked about, that same event, might have been the same event that we were, that you're talking about, where she had envisioned going to a beach, owning a bar. She doesn't own the bar, but she's at the beach and living her best life. And so it means the world to me to see that activity really meant so much to you all, because it was a neat idea, I thought, at the time, and then I wasn't sure anybody would care a year later, but apparently they did. So,
well, it did, and I still use that tactic. The other thing I'll say about that, back to the Ripple, part of what you taught us in that Ripple, and I still carry that today, is part of what everybody else has been talking about, which is when you meet people, it's not about what they do or where they do it. It's not about the work. It's about the person, the whole person. And I think that's been something that's really helped me to find those connections that you wouldn't look for otherwise. It's so easy to fall back into where do you work? What do you do? And that really it's irrelevant, because I think what I've also found through the connections I've made through what you've taught us is that it doesn't have to be about just professional connections. It's personal connections. I have a son with a disability, and Steve, you've known this.
Yep.
And I have found, when you talk to individuals and learn about what their struggles are, what they're going through, sometimes you find the connection you didn't even know existed. I have been able to lean on, even through your help, with your connections and your ripples, on other women who have faced the same challenges raising children that have disabilities. So you're able to find those peers and connect. And I've actually, I've taken it upon myself too to raise my hand, or I've had people reach out to me that I don't even know and say, hey, someone mentioned that you've been going through this. Is there any recommendation you can have? People we can reach out to, support groups? Absolutely. Because at that point, you're making a bigger impact on their life than just work. You're making, it's something that they will take with them and carry with them and hopefully pay it forward. That's the other part that I always think about with you. So yes, and I'm kind of jumping through some of the things that I've always learned and I still do to this day. You also talk about, keep those connections current. Don't let them slide. You have, and again, even if it's just reaching out to someone, I've taken your advice before, reached out to past colleagues or bosses and tell them, or even friends, hey, it's been forever and I didn't mean for this much time to pass, but you really made an impression on me. You helped me get through X, Y, or Z. And I just want you to know that. I don't want anything from it. I just want you to know that. And I think really, especially nowadays, it's so important to kind of like fill everybody's bucket without expectations, because when you least expect it, believe it or not, you get something in return. And at the end of the day, I think it's really about, like, I think it was Liz saying, how do you want to be remembered? I want to be remembered of making people feel positive, knowing that they have the ability to accomplish any of their goals, or that they will always have someone to lean on, like myself, if they need it.
Yep.
So, those were some of the things that I've always taken away nuggets with you as well. And I see my time's going soon. The other thing I wanted to say back to always finding a connection, I've run into you at Starbucks. I know you say, go to Starbucks and meet a couple of people. I've run into you at Starbucks before. But one thing I have found, and there's a lot of folks on here that have talked about military relationships or backgrounds or worked. I'm an Army brat. I grew up my whole life moving around from town to town, and my dad taught me the idea of respect of those individuals that have served our country. So for years and years, whenever I see somebody wearing a vet cap or just Army or whatever it is, it's always like, thank you so much for your service. And it just so happened one time at Starbucks, and I so wish I remembered his name. I happened to see a vet sitting down by himself at a Starbucks one time. This was not too far from where I live. And I just sat down with him. He was, I think he was in his late 90s, 100s. He was a World War II vet.
Yeah.
And I just said, thank you. And we struck up a conversation, and I meant to just sit there and wait for my coffee and talk to him. We talked for 35, 40 minutes. Yeah. That man was so incredible. He actually played for the New York Yankees before he went into World War II. And the story he had and how he made his way to Texas and the life he built for himself, and his wife passing away, but his children moving back from California. Yep. Profound. And I have found just what people wear on their caps. Is it a Longhorn cap? I can connect. If it's an Oklahoma Sooner cap, no offense to those Sooners out there, we can still connect and we can have a good conversation. But again, it's that camaraderie, and I think those are the pieces that I hope to carry or instill in my kids. I do that with anyone that I work with. It's like, think about the person, not what they do. I think that's what's the most important. So I'm thrilled that you're coming out with another book, because everything you have taught me, I try, not all of it, clearly there's a lot more to learn and do, but those are all things I carry with me and hope.
I love that. So I think that vet's name, because was it at the Starbucks that we've connected at before?
Not at the same one, no. I was actually up in Leander.
Oh wow, okay. So there's one near our house that his name's Ed, and I almost would say it's the same guy. Maybe he switched Starbucks, because he's 92 years old. He played professional baseball, and he basically has his little circle that he goes around, but he's got his routine, and his big treat to himself is to go to Starbucks, get a paper, sit there, enjoy his coffee. Mm-hmm. And he, same like you, I walked up one morning, saw him by himself, and I just went up and thanked him for his service, and I asked if I could get him a refill of coffee, and he was like, well, yes, that would be great. And that's how we hit it up, but it's got to be the same guy.
Was he Italian? Because I do remember him talking about Italian. There you go.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful man. And I met a Vietnam vet who actually flew the same helicopters as my dad. He was like, tell your father. Wow. So I got to call my father right after that. And it just warmed my heart. It filled my soul to know that conversation may or may not have had an impact on him and my father and on me. It did on me too. I mean, I still talk about it. It's been quite a while. So
absolutely.
Those are all the things that you, my friend, have taught me and that I carry with me.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. That means the world to me, because I think you were a bona fide Rippler before I even put the term Ripple together. So quite honestly, I mean, you are someone that when people meet you out there in the wild, they're just immediately drawn to you because you have one of these vivacious personalities. You're super open and willing to have that conversation and want to discover what you can about people. And that's what constitutes a really good Rippler. I mean, you are really good at figuring out how to get people to open up and share their story. And it's a real credit to you because not everybody has that skill set, and you've done it. You've done it for people that have worked for you. You did it with new bosses that came in. I remember us having some strategy sessions about that. Yep. And managed to make that, sort of a much different business relationship than it might have been if you had just been kind of, well, let's just kind of see where it goes. And you took the bull by the horns and you made it happen, and you continue to make it happen, which makes it so amazing to be your friend. And I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve. I wanted to leave with one comment because there have been so many. I've been jotting down like the right person at the right time, all of these things. I love having these kind of things that I can refer to and remind me of. But one of my favorite quotes, and I just tend to botch it sometimes, but it's, life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away.
Yep.
I don't know why, but I've always found that just to be invigorating. And, I keep that by my desk at all times. I just wanted to share that because I think that goes hand in hand with what you talk about and how
I love that. You know that George Strait wrote a song to that?
No, I don't think I did.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. It's it'll make you tear up. I promise you.
Oh, great! I'm always full of tears whenever
it's incredible.
Bring the Hallmark movies on for Christmas and.
It's Kathy does as well. I mean, do they ever stop the Christmas movies? Let's just be honest. I mean, it seems like it's been a continuous Christmas movie since July.
Well, this year has needed it more than any year, so let's not.
I suppose, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.
Wonderful, thanks, and hello and goodbye, Mark, to you too. It's so nice.
It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we definitely have to get you two together at some point because there's a variety of reasons, but yeah, absolutely, we need to do that.
You bet. Y'all take care.
Say hi to Dave and the kids for me.
I sure will.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Mark, pretty cool people, huh? Really, really cool.
I expect nothing less.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to throw one comment up there really quick. Christina had said for Cynthia, thank you for your openness. I had missed that comment initially, and I'm trying to do my best to keep up with these. And then I'm just now seeing Earl Hager's comments about the Dodgers, which is appropriate because Mr. Hager is up next. So that you know, Mark, the only other person that gives me more grief about football than you is Earl.
Really?
Earl,
wow,
you awake?
Okay.
I am. Hang on.
How's it going?
It's going well because we're in first place. And I'm wearing my Chuck Bednarik football jersey.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you walking around backstage with the Eagles jersey, and thanks for that.
The University of Pennsylvania and played for the Eagles, and he sat on Jimmy Taylor and the only team to beat the Packers.
Yep.
Packers. So
absolutely. Well, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I've been reflecting on some of the things that you guys have been telling stories on that. It's interesting. The sports angle is interesting because I've lived 35 years in Philadelphia, 20 in Austin, and now my 5th year out here in LA, in the LA area. And it's physically your friends move around and stuff like that. Most of them have all moved on from wherever they were. But I just couldn't see myself going into the same building for 40 years.
Yeah.
And, moving on was a really healthy thing. The other part was I worked at this company called SmithKline, now GlaxoSmithKline. And, when you're working there, you had this fear that you're going to lose this protective shroud over you of the corporation. And when that thing went, it was really kind of interesting to people's psyche because they thought no matter what, the company was going to take care of you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And suddenly, hi, your job is now in North Carolina and someone else has that desk, was a pretty common occurrence. So it's kind of interesting how things have changed.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about that earlier, and I think that again goes back to not that long ago, right? A couple generations ago, it was easier to define yourself by your career because you were more likely, I think, to have the same job for decades. I mean,
Right.
I know, I had, a great uncle who worked at the same factory for 40 something years, retired, got his watch, and that was it. And, one of the things now that we see, the change with the way that the economy works, we're more mobile. We're switching not just jobs, but whole careers. And if your identity is so wrapped up in what you do instead of who you are, I mean, I think that it does pose some real challenges. So, like that's maybe the one part of that appeal of the ripple effect too, is connecting at a more authentic level, not just here's what I do, because that doesn't matter as much.
There was a guy when Trump took office, he went out to Carrier in Indiana, and one of the main leaders was talking. He said, I started working for this company 2 weeks after graduating from high school, and I'm 3 years away from retirement. And I'm thinking, oh, screw you, pal. Let me tell you about my life. And it was kind of annoying to hear these things because people had this expectation that, it would continue forever. I mean, and one of the ways I got blasted was I moved to Philadelphia with my wife, and 2 years into it, we split up. And suddenly I'm hustling on my own job-wise and paying child support, taking care of the kid, and having to find a new place to live. And so, you suddenly realize you live on your wits and you live on what you do on a day-to-day basis. And, when the job disappears, I was on my way home from getting canned and making phone calls looking for the next gig. So, it's just keeping moving and stuff like that.
Well, the amazing thing that, Mark, I don't know if you remember this, but we met Earl, I think, at the exact same time. We were over at
Texpresso.
What's that?
Texpresso,
yeah, off Anderson. Yeah. And we went to this event, and I mean, we met several people that we've all stayed in contact with, right? But you had this event because you're kind of like, I'm kind of tired of the regular BS networking, because nothing ever gets accomplished, or you got somebody that's going to dominate the conversation and push their business agenda. And you said, hey, I want to do something a little bit different. And you were, at the time, every one of us was not necessarily in a position to help each other in any real perspective, but somehow we all kind of found this, our way to this, and we all sort of struck up this really unique friendship because of it, right? So Mark and I have been going to an event collectively for probably a year at that point, right? We were at the same networking event, but you're having the same conversations, all great people, all phenomenal individuals in their own right, but not a lot of, there was not a lot of uniqueness in that. We were kind of going through, pause, rewind, and every week was the same story. And so we wanted to look for something different. And you were kind of offering that at that point, and you were really upfront about it. Like, hey, look, I'm really trying to do something a little bit uniquely different here, but different in that you also said, hey, look, there's a business agenda here that we all need to accomplish. We all need to get really clear about what that is so that we can be really good about telling people when they actually ask you the question, what can I do to help you? You have an answer for that. And I always respected that because it really does. It's important. I don't think a lot of times people know how to tell people how they can help them because they don't actually spend the time thinking about it necessarily. Everybody's either thinking about their product or service or how to pitch it or the 30-second elevator pitch, but they're not really good at really defining, what they need and ultimately what value that they can provide.
I heard this really entertaining salesperson say she never answered questions. I need this in 6 weeks. Well, why do you need it in 6 weeks? Can your products do this? Well, why do you need to do that? And she closed.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I passed on to my son, who's in the arts business, he went to school for videography and movies, and he ended up running a startup for a while. and he understands business. And so he's between gigs and he found something and I was like, look, you're a closer. You know how to do this. You know how to make the business happen. You know how to do it. And remember that going into this thing is that you know how to get the job done.
Yep.
And that's the one thing he took with him on that. And he's now got a 6-week gig that's going to be extended as projects keep coming in. But he also sees he's learning augmented reality technologies, and he absolutely sees the value in doing that. And he's a closer.
That's awesome. Well, he's not. It must come from his dad, right?
Well, his mother is no longer with us, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's switch gears for a second. I remember those stories. What's the story behind your company?
My divorce stories were legendary.
That'll be a totally different podcast or live stream. But we should go there for sure. More alcohol later at night. Let's do that.
Is this light showing right?
Yeah, now we can see you. Before it was just like you were, trying to be the man of mystery. But maybe tell us the story behind the naming of your company, because I kind of like that.
So when I was naming the company, I wanted to come up with something interesting, but I was coming up with like technology associates and all that were taken up by the Texas Secretary of State's office, and they were turning down everything that I did. And so the Higgs boson stuff was happening at that time. And so I was looking for a pun off of neutrinos. And DONUT stands for direct observation of the neutrino tau. My daughter was a science geek at the time, and she thought it was really cool. And away we went. So it's one of those things where there's a certain group of people that appreciates this. I gotta do something with this lighting. It's just Halloween-y, isn't it? The Beatles, Revolver. Anyway, so I did a pun off of that. And so the people that are into science and the people that I deal with, they appreciate this. They actually get it. The movie Interstellar, the Matthew McConaughey movie.
Yeah.
The science guy was a guy named Kip Thorne, who was a PhD out of Caltech, a Nobel Prize winner, and buddies with Stephen Hawking. And he thought it was cool. What else can you do?
Yeah.
So I got a lot of flack for it when I named it, but at the same time, it's something people have always said this is something that they remember and they can find me. Yeah. And I'm actually pushing Fermi Labs off the Google search process.
Nice. Well, so we have about 5 minutes left. You and I had talked a little bit about LinkedIn today, and I know one of the things that you are a absolute master at is figuring out how to leverage LinkedIn to generate, not just more connections, but beneficial connections, but ultimately leveraging that as a resource. Can you share more about your strategy there?
Well, I started in the 90s when this was going on, and a lot of it was because I could look up the names of people's customers, to be honest, because they would say, well, who's the computer person at XL Electronics or whatever it was? And you would look up the salesperson who had the account, and he would put down his LinkedIn connections. Like, okay, got someone to call. But over time, and it was one of these things where it's one of those things you keep doing until you suddenly find out it's a value. So in 2007, I went to work for UT, working in global commercialization. We were dealing with technologies from Mexico and Hungary and other places. And they said, well, we need to make a connection with somebody at Schlumberger. And I would just type in LinkedIn and say, this is the guy who looks for new technologies at Schlumberger. And I've kept that going. I've got like 15,000 contacts. Anyway, I make a lot of money on that because I know how to find the people that are looking for new technologies. And so I'm not like selling them something that they don't want. I'm connecting with them to share them with information that they do want.
Yep.
So that's basically the trick on LinkedIn. But I want to jump back to sports since that's a more important topic. I highly recommend if you ever get out to LA, the Dodgers game, the Micheladas, and sitting in the bleachers. It's the best.
See, we got to tell Jennifer that. She'd be all over that. Yep.
I got to tell you, I've never been in the bleachers at Wrigley or anything like that. so I can't compare it. But I mean, the bleachers at Dodger Stadium are really awesome. The other thing is that if it's a night when there's fireworks or they're showing a movie, the people in the bleachers get to watch the end of the game from the field.
Oh, wow.
So take your shoes and socks off and walk around the outfield at Dodger Stadium, and oh my God. I had a friend who was playing catch with his son for a little while until they told him to stop. But, you know, standing in the outfield at Dodger Stadium and just wandering around is just cool.
Oh, that is cool.
I highly recommend it. And, but I mean, I didn't know this. The first time we were there, I didn't know this. But now from then on, when we went on those nights, it was always bleacher seats. But the bleacher seats are better anyway, because you're kind of like you're staring at the entire field and you see things. And that's also how I caught my home run ball.
Oh, really? I didn't know you caught one.
Yeah. So it was the Phillies were losing 6-0. It was the top of the 8th. And I said, well, I'm going to the restroom and I'll meet you out there and let's get out of here. My son was with me with one of his friends. And so I walked down and there's this gap between the seats and the outfield wall. And by then it was the bottom of the 8th. And Jock Pedersen hits the ball. It goes into the stands and bounces and then drops right in front of me. And I just stick my hand out like this. And there it was. And then this nice lady said, you should give this to my son. I said, no, I'm keeping it. And she dropped the F-bomb on me. But
you still didn't give it up, right?
So she wasn't amused by this, but I caught a baseball with my bare hand. Now I have 2 baseballs, one for each child. That one's going to Alex because he was there for that game.
Yeah.
The second one is at Playing Against Sports in Austin. I was going through the baseballs because I wanted a baseball just to like hang around with when I'm working. And I found one that was autographed by Mel Stoudemire of the Yankees.
Really?
For $1.
Did you have it validated?
Pardon?
Did you have it validated?
I don't think anyone would go through that much trouble to spell Stoudemire for nothing. Anyway, so I bring it home, and I think it's really cool, and I set it down. And my daughter, who was like 6 or something at the time, she signs the ball. And I'm going like, that's amazing. And she later on, she was like totally embarrassed. Like, I can't believe you still have that around. And says, oh no, everyone thinks this is cool. So I said, I got Stoudemire ball, but it's signed by my daughter. That's more important.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I love that.
So yeah, so I got 2 baseballs to pass on to the kids someday.
Well, Earl, you know, we gotta let you go, but I wanted to say thank you for joining today. I know you're a busy man, taking stock in your first place NFC East leading Eagles. But you know, wait till next season. That's all I'm going to say right now. It's just like my fantasy football team. I will be back. I promise. The Cowboys will rise again.
I got my copy of AARP News every month. And this month they have a picture of the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl team from whenever that happened on the cover.
Earl, it's always a pleasure, my man. Thank you for joining today. I really do appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Take care, brother.
Thank you, Earl.
Hey, before I jump over, I want to share one that Jennifer will love. Matt Hanish, who is going to be on later, has been to one of Jennifer's tailgates, and they are no joke. Hook 'em. So that's an endorsement right there. So, Dave, hopefully you have not sold the trailer because, you know, it needs to come back by popular demand for sure. So this next guy deserves no introduction, or, you know, he is he was apparently thinking he was coming on for a 2-hour session, not 15 minutes. And he's pretty upset about it. Like I got a call from his lawyer earlier.
That's true. That's true.
The infamous Carlin Haas. Carlin used to help me run the 8-minute ripples, and then he left, and then the whole thing cratered, went to hell in a handbasket. So yeah, and he predicted that. He and Mark give me grief like you would not believe regarding fantasy football. And you know, he is one of the all-around nicest guys you'll ever meet, but he's also an up-and-coming what will we call you, Carlin? An influencer now? Because you're the shoe enthusiast on YouTube and just destroying it.
Yeah, I don't want to know if I'm an influencer per se, because I don't know if I like that word, but I feel like I'm a person that the shoe world should look at for sure. For sure. The shoe world should look at me 100%.
Mark, have you seen his YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have. It's
Are you a
impressive.
subscriber?
I don't think I actually. I've never subscribed to any YouTube channel, so I'm not a good.
I know. I've written 3 books, and he's like, "Oh, you got a YouTube channel? I didn't know that."
Yeah, I'm not a good metric for that. But,
you should definitely subscribe. A lot of good information on that channel for sure.
It's pretty well done. It's very, very well put together. Very funny. What are we drinking tonight? By the way, boys,
this is I'm drinking a Mixschauf, which is a dark Belgian ale.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. The Belgian beer has been the beer of choice for the pandemic for me. So this is, when it's over, I'll stop drinking Belgian beer. But until then, it's Belgian all the way.
I feel like when this is over, what I really want is I want like a night out with Carlin, because I feel like I would see a different side of Austin. It would be like this whole cosmopolitan experience.
That's
I would
true.
end up by the end of the evening, like in a smoking jacket with a fine cigar in some out of the way little bar that was immediately going to trend.
If I had known that,
we'll be thrown out of about 2 minutes after we walk in. But
I would have worn my smoking jacket and my velvet slippers if I had known that is what you thought.
There we go.
I would have done that.
We'll get you back with Earl, and we'll do the late night, live stream.
That'll be fun.
More beers and people that talk at a higher level than I do.
We can talk fantasy football if you want to. It's okay.
So I did have something, because Carlin and I, our day jobs are both in education.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been curious, because I've said this to Steve on several occasions that I feel like in education we talk an awful lot about the importance of relationships, and we understand that. We see that in the impact that teachers have on students. We understand that for especially now, schools to be successful, they've got to build alliances with parents.
Right.
And community members, and that's increasingly difficult to do in this kind of urban transient, environment where people are moving all the time. But at the same time, I feel like even though we acknowledge as a profession the importance of it, we don't always know how to do it in a systemic fashion. And so I've always kind of wondered if there's a ripple application there that's just like really underutilized. And that's something I've always wanted to ask you as somebody else who has a similar perspective.
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because, where I work now, it's a private school that really, it really depends on not just, your current parents, your current students, but also your former students, your former parents, your alumni, going way back. And I think that part of the thing that can make, education successful, even for those who are there and those who came before, is to really, hit home the fact that, relationships are not transactional. It's not like who what they can do for you. It's a long-term investment. And I have seen, I've been where I'm at now since about 2012, and I keep up with everybody who's graduated from there all the way till now. And now I'm thinking to myself, this is, I've been there longer than I thought I would, but I think, I didn't think this would be right, but I like what I do. But I think really what's important is knowing that when we're educating somebody and we're keeping contact with them, that's not something that's like, I taught you, you learn from me, done. It's something, a relationship is something that is a long-term, it's a long-term investment in another person. And, also, I've lived abroad for over 10 years, and Steve knows this, this. And for some people, it's like, I lived there, I moved back, I don't keep in touch with them anymore. And I now have pretty much a global network of people that I've known for, now since 1996. And so I think in terms of education, I think it's really important to really hammer home to students now that the people you meet now, it's not just like I was in class with you one day and I forgot about you. These are people that you will know for the rest of your life and that you will keep in touch with. And they have so many more, I would say, like, there's so many more opportunities to keep in touch now than I did when I graduated, which I'll give my age, I'm 1991, right? And I'd say that these kids nowadays have so many ways to keep in touch that there's just no excuse anymore for that, to not keep in touch. And they will be people that they would know the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. No, I think that's well said. You know, when you talk about it, Mark, in terms of the application and the approach, is that connecting not only just with the students, but also their parents? Because I mean, the interesting thing, that the perspective there that I know that Carlin has had, because I've actually gotten to speak for one of his entrepreneur classes. Mm-hmm. He was really, really good at connecting with his students, but the parents that he had, there were some hard to please parents, I would think, would be a fair description potentially. And
I can't speak to that, Steve.
That was the political
parent. There are wonderful parents. Don't
yeah. No. But high expectations.
Right.
And then, Mark, the parents that you experienced a lot of times, I think in your teaching career, you had some that were just completely disconnected with what their kids are doing. And there's an opportunity to kind of bridge that in some capacity, right? Trying to figure out a way to, encourage and engage those parents on the high level and maybe the less engaged, to bring them in and help them recognize the amazing things that their kids are doing and what you're recognizing as their core talents. And I see that a lot with some of the teachers that follow me on Twitter. Everybody seems to be kind of trying to figure out how to come to grips with that. And, I get asked a lot of times, how could the Ripple help in that capacity? And it's like, well, that's an investment in the student, but it's also an investment in the parent, right? By helping that parent recognize just how special another adult figure sees, their kid and what their child is accomplishing in the classroom, academically, or wherever, whatever else they're potentially being able to bring to the table, aside from what they might be doing just right there in the classroom, how they're contributing to their school community, how they treat other students, all those things. I think those are all opportunities for educators to really recognize that, but then also make that bond or potentially create that bond with the parents to get them more active and engaged, even high level or maybe those that are less engaged, to recognize just how amazing an influence they can have on their kids and what they're doing out there in the world.
I think, right now engagement is one of those buzzwords. It's been around education for a long time, and particularly in this environment. And so I work for Pflugerville ISD, and I support a number of schools. Right now, we have still a majority of our students engaged in virtual learning because of the pandemic. And engagement is probably the most preoccupying issue. But I'll be honest, the more that I've reflected on it, I think engagement is really the wrong term. And I think that we are concerned about engagement when really the focus should be empowerment, because that is what really creates a more sustainable, equal long-term relationship, whether it's teacher and student, school and parent. And so that's, I think, where for me, thinking about the impact of the Ripple, it's not just about engaging somebody. It's about really empowering somebody, right? Because that's the one of the trends that we've even heard tonight is this idea of how can I help you realize something that's important to you? What can I do to facilitate that? And that is such a powerful gift.
Right. And just to piggyback on that, I would say that a lot of times when we think about, especially in education, we think about teachers and students, but in a sense, we think about all the stakeholders in education, and the parents are an important part of that, because the thing is, as a teacher, like, I can't take the place of a parent, right? I can't do that job, and it's not my job to do that. And having the parents feel like they are connected to the educational experience, I have found, and I found this, I have international students in my school, And I've always said that when you have natural parents who are engaged and committed to the process of education, the students are just, they're happier. They have a better experience. And right now, we have about half of my international students are still abroad because they can't come in the country. They just can't come.
Yeah.
But they still feel like they're a part of the community. And they feel like that because we've engaged their parents and say that you may be in another country, but you're still part of this community. You're still a part of the educational experience, and you're important. Like, your support makes the experience better for your kid and for the school. Yeah. And I think that's really one way to look at, how the Ripple, this kind of philosophy really it makes us all work, is because you're saying that it's not just, like you're in school for 4 years. When the parents feel invested in the experience, you find that the students have just that better experience, hands down. And I've seen it where parents are not as engaged, the experience isn't as good.
One of the things I guess maybe one of the things that I was going to share about the engagement, to your point, Mark, I think that's absolutely right. It's not the right word necessarily, but the component that I might replace it with, I'm thinking of a high school teacher that I had talked to that was really struggling to get parents involved. And I said, what's the one thing that you can recognize about each of those kids, and then take that level of recognition and express it to the parent? Because I think especially as they get through middle school and into the high school, a lot of times parents, and we've all been there, right? We all recognize it because we've had kids at various ages. Carlin just started over, crazy psycho that he. I'm just kidding. The point being is, we had beautiful baby.
My child's very cute, very cute.
Yep, very cute.
I planned it, teenager and toddler. I planned it that way. Built-in babysitter. But
that recognition piece, when somebody else kind of outside the family validates that about your own kid, and you kind of hear that actually becomes the connection point between the parent and the child. And so I think that there's a definite applicability to the Ripple there, because that can start that relationship not over, but on a different, direction, create a different, potential, angle for them to engage with the child and say, look, I really appreciate somebody recognizing you for what you're doing. And, you make us look good. You bring us, joy and pride to the family because of what you're doing in the classroom.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, so Carlin, the shoe enthusiast, by night, teacher by day, thank you so much for being here. I do promise you that we will do this again. We will bring you on for a little longer time because, you claimed that you reached out to Mark and said that you were calling a 2-hour slot. But Mark has no recollection of that email or voicemail.
He doesn't, but you know what? I'm going to send it right now, and we're going to make sure that happens. We're going to make sure that happens. I will, we'll go back in time. We'll make sure that happps.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get back together. We will have another adult beverage. Hopefully we can do this in person soon.
That'd be great.
Yeah. It's been way too long. I appreciate you being a part of it. You are without question one of the most special people I know. You do so much for me. I appreciate your friendship and your support all these years, and, keeping me humble. Thank you for that.
You too. All right. You take care. You guys.
All right, brother. It's good seeing you.
All right. Take care.
All right. So I'm going to, let's see. Jennifer did share a comment here that I wanted to post for Matt Hanish. Matt, you know where to find us on game days, at least when tailgating is back on campus. Hook 'em. So, yeah, there you go. The gauntlet has been thrown down yet again. You're going to have to come back to Austin to be able to enjoy that. So, Mark, this next guest that I'm going to bring on is I have so many awesome people that the Ripple has brought into my life, but this is one of those people that we started off as a business relationship, and it's just evolved into this massive, amazing friendship. She is probably one of the brightest, smartest people that I know on the planet. And I know a lot of people. And so that's saying something. Aruna, thank you for joining us for tonight's Ripple, live stream.
Wow. What an intro. Hi, Steve.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Aruna.
How are you guys doing?
Great. Yeah, we're doing fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, so Aruna and I met because she had been working as an intellectual property attorney for a firm that I was doing some business development coaching for. And she and I struck up a friendship. She is an entrepreneur at heart. It's just taken us 3-4 years to get her there. And now she's like kicking ass, taking names, and about to, become potentially the next big jewelry maker. I'm gonna put it out there publicly because if we don't do these things, then the pressure's not on for you to produce. So Aruna's like, great, thank you.
Right.
But Aruna and her family, they're just really special people. They're amazing. We're really lucky to have you on tonight. I really appreciate you making time to do this, and just so excited for you to be here.
Thank you. This is exciting for me to be here as well. When I first met Steve, I was in such a different place in my life as far as my how I interacted with people. It was totally transactional. That's what I was taught. The culture that my parents are from, that's what relationships are about. And so I remember the first few times I met Steve, he just blew my mind as far as like, oh, so, have you ever thought to ask people what their stories are or get to know people? And I, initially I was just like, no, I hate people and only interact with them when there's something that I need from them or they have something over me, so I have to give to them. What is this like getting to know people business? Blew my mind. Totally blew my mind. But, Steve, I've got to say, right now I am an IP attorney. I am a solo practitioner. And in the middle of the pandemic, I am killing it.
Yep.
Because, Steve, you just turned my whole understanding of people and relationships around, right? It's the relationships that I've been able to build since I met you that have really helped me thrive and flourish, even though we're unfortunately in the middle of a pandemic. And I know so many people who are being impacted so negatively by this, but I'm doing well because I took the time to get to know people and actually build relationships and stop seeing them as a transaction that I, start and end.
Well, I think honestly, let's be truthful here. You didn't necessarily see it that way. I think you sort of assumed that was how it was supposed to be because you came. Really interesting origin story here. Aruna was an engineer, made the switch to become a lawyer, and went into the field of intellectual property and defense of ideas and understanding inventions and writing patents and figuring out the intricacies. But behind all of that was a story about how an inventor gets from point A in ideation to point B to developing something into a product or a service. And you were exceptionally good at figuring out that story and being able to bring it to the forefront so that you could defend an idea or put it forward so that it could be protected. And I think the interesting thing was you were looking at it like maybe a little backwards, but you didn't realize how awesome you were at connecting with people to get to the grit. Now, you would like to dive in and get to the details so that you can get to the meat really quickly. But that was also a strength of yours that I don't think you necessarily recognize. I mean, you have a super power when it comes to connecting.
Thank you. I'm still discovering that every day.
Yeah, well, you have continued to do it, and like you said, you're killing it during a pandemic because you are bringing something unique to that space that I don't think a lot of attorneys really get or understand. And I do think that you have, kind of maybe gone beyond the transactional piece to understand that the relational piece is what gets people to want to stay and do long-term business with you. And that I think is really good, which is not necessarily to say was your fault because the firms that you were with was about kind of treat them and street them. So you were performance based, or you were reviewed based on the number of hours you build and the transactional aspects of the business. And now you're in a position where you're actually saying, well, look, I can take a step back. I can do things the way I want them done. And I can get the outcomes that I know that I can get by getting a bit more involved and a little bit deeper in those individual relationships.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's exactly right. Unfortunately, in these times and days, law firms have evolved into churn 'em and burn 'em type shops. There really isn't time or energy or a lot of effort put into bringing up associates and giving them the time it takes to build the relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's, instead of selling a product or selling a good, you're selling attorney services. And you just get put into like the little hamster wheel and churn out as many applications as you can, bill as many hours as you can. The relationship part, that all gets handled by partners or whatever. So it's an unfortunate business model, but you're right. By being on my own now, I've got the time. I can put that time into building those relationships, and it's so rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, and Mark, you can kind of understand that before you were in education, you were doing the marketing and sort of helping people build their brand and their messaging. But there's a similarity in terms of to how and why you were successful, because you actually took the time to know your clients when you were working with them, more so than, oh, you just want another trifold brochure, or you need a new logo, or you need to come up with a marketing campaign. That definitely, one of the things that impressed me about you early on was, what are you trying to accomplish? Right. And so the similarities between what Aruna does and what you were doing back then were very similar, because you're really trying to help them, tell a different story than what they may have been able to see at the time. Right.
Yeah, and I think it goes to what Aruna is sort of saying about the short-term transactional nature of certain business relationships and certain business models versus those longer-term relationships, right? And we know in any business, it is cheaper and more efficient to cultivate an existing relationship than it is to go out for new business. But everybody wants always to get new customers, right? And you don't pay enough attention to the people who you currently have and try to take care of them. And so, I think it's an interesting statement maybe on human psychology, that we're always sort of questing for something else instead of really trying to maximize what we have. And what I've seen so many people do is, if they really do focus intentionally on that existing set of relationships, and I think this is what the ripple really bears out, that then spreads phenomenally, and you end up getting, like the benefit of everything, because you're getting new business without having to invest the time and the resources to try to go get it. It's coming to you, literally.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and Aruna, you most recently figured out not only is that an important aspect, but also sticking up for yourself and finding your own voice is pretty key too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you share that story without I think it would be very helpful for people on the watching tonight.
Oh man, putting me on the spot here.
Is there an NDA?
Yeah, so sure. So, if it helps somebody, if my story helps somebody, I'm all about that, right? So I was at a really big firm prior to me going off on my own. And they're just, gosh, I don't even know where to start with that. I don't think I've actually had time to like really figure out how I want to share that story. But essentially, I was getting paid as a second year. I have eight plus years of experience, and I joined the firm as a second year, getting paid at a second year rate. I was there for about 15 months, a year and a half. And in that time, I helped land a pretty major client because I've got expertise in a certain area that nobody else at the firm really had. I was lucky enough to be part of the initial talks, really formed a relationship, a really good, positive, strong relationship with the in-house counsel for this client. Just really took on a lot of roles that were not second year type roles. I was on the diversity and inclusion committee. There's just a lot there that I was taking on. And so I ended up getting brave, and I ended up starting to try and have a conversation with management. It really wasn't a conversation. It was more very one-sided, but I was like, hey guys, look, this is all that I've done. I'm bringing on my own clients. I'm growing my own practice. Look, I helped land this big client. The in-house counsel loves me. I'm actually the first go-to attorney here at the firm who's, writing these patent applications. How about we talk about me being raised up to something higher than a second level? I do have 8+ years of experience, but let's talk about maybe 5th year, 6th year. I'm not really like shooting for the stars here. I'll settle for the moon, and it just, man, the next thing I heard basically was like, it's not working out. See you later. Bye. And but through that process, I mean, that was really one of the first times that I started to like more speak up for myself and stand up for myself, like realizing, okay, they are going to keep paying me at a second-year rate if I allow it, if I let that continue, right? I have to say something. I have to speak up for myself and ask for what I think I deserve, right?
Yeah.
So it was very empowering. I've got to say, it's very empowering. Like, you could view it from a lens of like, oh my gosh, that really sucked. But it's like, no, actually, it was very, very empowering to be able to have those conversations and to say those things and stand up for myself and say, look, I am awesome. Yes, I do deserve to be paid at a 5th or 6th year. Actually, I deserve to be paid at an 8th year level, but so yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I think what I've seen in you is this massive growth in that self-confidence, not because you can have those conversations today, but because you know that when those conversations have to happen, you're worth every penny. And what's great about it is that you're now being in a position, right, where you can say, hey, look, this is what I know that I'm worth. And now I can sort of command that value. And now you're doing it under your own terms, right? Which is the most impressive aspect of what I've seen happen over the last few years for you, which is you're happier, you smile more, you still go through these little moments of, well, I don't know, but you come out of them so much quicker than you used to because you're a badass. And that's what's amazing about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did just recently almost have to fire a client because of that, because they weren't paying me. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, pay up or like, we're done. And, they tried to be like, well, this is just how it is in the consulting world. It's 90+ days, till people get paid out. And I'm just like, okay. You're the only client I have that's like that. Every other client pays me upfront, a retainer or next day, and they're so thrilled. They're so thrilled to have the help that I'm able to provide, right? Yep. They're so grateful. And so you guys are just kind of the exception here. And so I have to focus on the folks who are excited to work with me. And I didn't say this, but I'm excited to work with as well, right? Like, it's got to be like symbiotic. We can't have this one-way deal. And so, yeah, that was another example recently of where I stood up for myself. And hey, guess what? They were like, all right, we'll pay you. And the money was in the account the next day.
Yep. No, that was awesome. Actually, believe it or not, that was the story I was trying to get you to come up with. But the other one is just as good.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they're
it's
both
been a whole year of like so much growth and so much of like standing up for myself, which is not my pattern from the past. So, so many moments.
Well, that's because you have value and you know what you bring to the table and you shouldn't settle for anything less, right? So that's the beautiful thing about the growth that we've seen over the last year or so, and it'll only continue to be better. So
all thanks to you, Steve.
No, I don't think so. You did all the work. I just, kind of nudged you when you were going off the rails.
You're there to kick my ass when I needed it.
I've been known to do that occasionally, but you did all the heavy lifting, I promise. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, it's been amazing to to get to spend this time with you over the last several years to see where you've grown and what you're doing. And like I've told you before, I mean, the sky is the limit. I mean, you're going to do amazing things. And as a solo practitioner, I think you're finally going to be in a position where you can grow the kind of clients and relationships that you want, because you know exactly where you want to go and what you want to do with it. And so, keep just doing what you're doing. I'm so grateful. And it's an absolute honor to watch it.
Well, I'm just so thrilled that our paths crossed, Steve. So blessed and lucky to have you in my life.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much again for being here tonight. And I will talk to you very soon. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right. See ya. Take care.
Mark.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So we actually had somebody that was slated a little bit early, but I think she may be having trouble getting on. So I see Jennifer is here a little early. So I'm going to bring Jennifer on. Jennifer and I solely met on social media, and she's like, I can see her off camera. She's like, oh, I didn't expect to come on this. Hey, surprise.
Oh my God.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's good. I'm happy I actually put myself on early. I was just
no, worked out great. I mean, I appreciate you doing that. So Jennifer and I met on social media, Twitter specifically, and we kind of struck up a conversation, and we kind of became really good friends, talked a few times, and she is one of those positive, upbeat people that you're just really lucky to cross paths with. She's a singer-songwriter living in Nashville, and just she's so neat and just amazing to get to know. And I'm grateful that you elected to come participate tonight. I know there was some question about whether you were going to do it or not, and so I'm so grateful you showed up and that we could have you tonight, because you're just a neat person. I want everybody to get to know you.
Oh, thank you. Well, what life happens, and I had said to you, I don't think I'm going to be in a positive, exactly what you're saying is what I wanted to be able to present, and I wasn't kind of in a positive space. I had a death in the family, and I thought to myself, like an hour or so later after telling you no, I said, like, this is your moment. This has nothing to do with me. Like, and I really and I'm being 100%. I'm like, why? I need to show up for you, because this is what it's all about. It's the ripple. And so it really, and it's all about continuing to connect and give back. So I'm really happy that I did. It gave me an opportunity to just show up for you. And I think that's
I appreciate that.
Really important. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were one of the first people that came to mind when I wanted to do this, because, I have just so enjoyed getting to know you and learning about you. And you are someone that is found yourself in some unusual circumstances, but you still show up authentically online for the people that need to hear your positive message. You write, music that inspires and motivates, and you just, you're just one of those rare commodities, right? That I think a lot of people need to know and experience. And I remember the first year I started following you was when you were starting to do the, I think it was the 12 days of Christmas, and every day you got on Twitter and just did your own version of the Christmas. How did you come up with that? It was so cool. And
I mean, it's called keeping sane. Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, I mean, I'm laughing now, but the reason I did that is because I had a huge death to me, and that happened, and I was trying to keep grounded, and I was like, it popped in my head. I'm like, I could do this, and I could map it out and produce it and get all the outfits, and it'll take up like almost a month, like, of time. And I don't have to, like, I can keep busy. And then I can also, so it was just like this, like, it was like a pop. It was like a God moment. Like, you could do something to give back to people, to have fun again, while, it feels like the theme of my life has been grieving for the past couple of years, but I'm getting good at managing it. So I think, that's the honest truth of where it came from. It wasn't like I was sitting in my room and like, let's see what else I can do for people. It's like these like moments of me staying sane. And then in the retrospect, other people enjoy it. So, and honestly, it was a blast by myself, in my house, like creating the whole entire environment of it. It was fun. So I'm glad, and it's always going to be there now. So every time Christmas comes, I just pop it up on, the
Absolutely.
12 days of Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, no, what was amazing is that, I think what you didn't realize at the time, you were utilizing it to help you get through and to deal with what was going on, but you were actually in the larger sense creating a positive ripple for everybody that came across it, because you kind of came to this post and you're like, hey, this is interesting. This is, what is this about? And then next thing you know, you're just sucked into it, right? And then having gotten the opportunity to meet you, more officially this past year, and get to know all that you were overcoming and what you were, kind of dealing with. You've had a couple of things thrown at you that nobody, expects, and nobody should have to deal with. And you deal with it with a positive, upbeat mindset, which I think is inspirational for anybody that has the luxury of getting to know you. And, it's not just that you're utilizing your music and your talents in that way to make an impact in the world. It's, I think, everybody that gets to meet you in any professional capacity, they get to see somebody who's like, I'm showing up, I'm being as authentic and as present as I possibly can. And yes, some days suck, some days are rough, but I'm going to still show up and I'm going to do the best possible job that I can to make a difference in the world. And that's what really impressed me about you.
Well, thank you. I want to actually just bring up also how much you have done in rippling me when I needed it. Again, you reached out to me, you're like, hey Jen, where'd you go? On Twitter. And I'm just like, I'm really depressed and I can't live my life and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But I didn't say that to you. I was just like, hey, can you maybe help guide me to where I need to go next? And you were so kind, and you took time to just hear me out. And again, yes, I'm a songwriter. I've been a songwriter and a singer and a performer and an actor since I've been birthed, but in that is the service, and the service I provide, I know in life now, my platform, my purpose is to share my voice, to share my heart, to share my strength, hope, experience, wisdom from my chaos and trauma to help. And so what you provided me with was three ripples that were great. I got to meet I was trying Clark from Nashville EC, the Entrepreneurial Center here in Nashville, which was great. I just got to kind of brainstorm with him. And then Matt, he's a professor at Belmont, and then Jeff, and another Belmont professor. And honestly, it was, and then Jesselyn that you introduced me to. Yeah, all these ripples. And honestly, what that generosity did for me was get me grounded in going from, okay, well, I'm a musician, but I need to create another platform for me to financially create abundance that does the same thing in a different way. And so the platform of, I had started writing a book because I was doing life coaching, and then I was doing decluttering, but I was really focused on, I need to be a content writer and a marketing. And the reality is after going to these three people, I got that. And Jeff said, well, first of all, you're not a 9-to-5er. He's like, I can tell you that. You're never going to fit in. And he said, and you're a storyteller, and you what you're doing is more, you need to kind of go find your own, you can't you can't fit into the box. And because of that journey, I am now, again, it's the beginning of it, but I am now putting together my mindset coaching business, getting the website together. My decluttering business has taken off, and I don't even have anything for it. I'm just kind of awesome. Okay, wait, I have to write my book, and then I have to go declutter. And it's just, and then I go in my room and write songs, but lately haven't. So but I'm just saying this is all because of the generosity of what you do. And I am grateful for that and for knowing you. And honestly, you kind of tell even inviting me on this, oh, I gotta get up again and do, I gotta show up. So yeah.
Well, because what I would tell you if you didn't, why not? Why would you not show up? I mean, come on.
Right. Wow.
I mean, you'd be robbing the internet of your personality and your smile. I mean, come on.
I know. I try to, like, you know, it's like, showing up always feels better. It's just getting, like I said, like the book that I'm writing is like, it's like I'm reading this, editing parts of it every day. And I'm just like, okay, I needed that. Thank you, Jen. Whoever wrote, you know, it's like, thank you for that nugget of like, take the action, you know, take the action.
Well, I mean, so I had, if you remember when we first connected for that first series of phone calls, I said, hey, I have somebody that you need to talk to about that book. And it's that guy right there. Or maybe it's the other way.
Yeah, talk to you.
Mark is my editor. He has got experience in the publishing world. He's phenomenal. He's an excellent sounding board, but more importantly, he's an advocate for projects. And the thing that this worked out, I mean, I'm not saying I got you, but I mean, this was I wanted you two to connect tonight because I knew that there was the potential for you to keep that progress moving forward. And when you have somebody like Mark, who is outstanding at bouncing ideas off of and being accountable, he could be a real guide in that process. And Mark, so Jen's got a really unique approach to her writing and what she wants to do with it and how she wants to take it as a career. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for you to give her some potential guidance about what she could do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to, like Steve said, if nothing else, be a sounding board. If you have any questions, I've made a lot of mistakes.
I will be reaching out.
Okay, that's great, because I've made a lot of mistakes over the years. So yeah, I just it's sometimes it's this remarkable adventure, but it is intimidating, and mistakes can be expensive, and so I am always a firm believer. Like if somebody can give you some advice that saves you time or money or heartache or something, like that's easy. And absolutely, let's do that. So, and it's exciting. I love hearing about new projects.
Yeah, it's honestly, it is scary because I'm used to, like, the venture of writing a book versus the venture of writing songs. It's like a whole nother level. And it's like, I mean, a song, I mean, it might take hours and hours and weeks and weeks, but it's like only one song. It's like 3 minutes to, form, this is like the continuum and just really meshing together that, making sure it coherently works, like, and then it's been challenging.
It's like building a house. That's what I tell people. It really is like building a house, and you have to draw up the blueprints, and you have to figure out how everything comes together, and it is a huge challenge. And at the end of it, hopefully, like, everything works and you look at it and you're proud it's your dream house. But if not, sometimes you end up with the money pit, and that's what if we can avoid that, like, that's absolutely the goal. So that's for me. I spent some time in the publishing business, and so even though that's not really my life anymore, that's one of the ways that I try to give back, is by at least giving people some advice and helping them hopefully kind of chart their path to success.
Well, that would be wonderful. Again, Ripple right here.
Yeah.
In real time, people. I mean, this is
what we're talking about. Go get the book.
Well, and Jesselyn was going to be on tonight, but she had a prior commitment, unfortunately. So we'll definitely get her on another one of these. But I mean, that was kind of one of my proudest connections for you, because now you guys have been two peas in a pod, it sounds like. So
yeah, you nipped that one in the bud. I mean, her and I just, like, immediately, it was like, oh my God, new friend, it's just like from New York to LA, and like, just, we have so much of that whole, I mean, I'm in Nashville, but it's like East Coast, West Coast. It's just like, just getting real, kind of thing, very grounded. We I have to see her soon, but pandemic kind of makes everything a little bit more
challenging.
But I know I said that I wasn't sure if I wanted to play a song, but I did get myself to vocalize, and just to give you that gift if you wanted.
Oh, that would be awesome. Heck yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Now?
Yeah, sure.
I'm like so laid back. So I was trying to think, like, what I wanted to play, and this is one of, like, it's called Gold, and the reason I'm playing it is because I think in life, and especially what we're talking about here with rippling and just I mean, for me, it's more like, you know, coaching and giving back. It's like the one thing that I am clear that has been my stopper in life and my self-sabotage is that, you know, the whole doing things over and over again and expecting a different result, the insanity of it all. But the reality is that I'm so comfortable in the, you know, I'm using like I'm so comfortable in staying small and doing the same thing that like there's no way I can rise above. And so gold is really about this battle between the good and the bad and saying, you know, I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. I'm not going anywhere if I stay in, you know, stuck. So that's what this is really, in a nutshell, that's what this is about. So that's why I thought it made sense. So here we go.
So I have to tell you before you do that, I wrote that in my journal today. Stop playing small.
See?
How, yeah, the ripple keeps happening. I'm telling you.
And we're all connected.
Awesome.
And we're just all spookily connected.
Yes,
just,
absolutely.
Yeah. Halloween's over, but we're still in spooky.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this one's for you, Steve.
Thanks.
She told me I can. Then the serpent said, no way, man. Without hesitation, my naked mind fell into his hands. Oh, I don't like the way I am, so I will listen to what she has to say. 'Cause that bastard got the best of me. Then over backwards, spreads and twisted in every way. Tired of sometime soon, maybe another day. I just found gold, gravitate towards what I know. But that won't work, no, no, not anymore. I just found gold, gravitate towards what I know. But that won't work, no, not anymore. You can dance with me if you like. Believe me, I want you to lead. But I warn you, I have two right feet. Or is there another side of me? I just found gold, gravitate towards what I know. But that won't work, no, no, not anymore. I just found gold, gravitate towards what I know. But that won't work, no, not anymore. 'Cause I won't stand here any longer. Oh, there's another burning pit of my gutted soul. It's time to heal it and make it whole. Oh, who am I? Who am I? I just found gold, gravitate towards what I know. But that won't work, no, no, not anymore. I just found gold, gravitate towards what I know. But that won't work, no, no, not anymore. Ooh, no, no, not anymore. I just found gold. I just found gold.
Oh my God, that was awesome. Ah, that's amazing.
Thanks. There you have it.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. Can you really quickly share with everybody that's on how they find your music?
Yes. You can go to jennifervasquez.com and spell it right. Well, you don't have to spell it right because I have two webs. It goes to the same name because everyone spells my name Vasquez.
Smart.
Yeah, so I bought those domains years ago because I'm never going to get it right. So it's jennifervasquez.com. And then on social media, on Facebook and YouTube, it's Jennifer Vasquez Music. And then on Twitter, I think it's just Jennifer_Vasquez. You can go to Apple Music, you can go to Spotify, Amazon, all that good stuff. And that song is on the latest album that came out. It's latest. It's like 3 years already. 2017 is like latest. It's like, yeah, it just came out. But it's just brand new. It's like, like it just came out yesterday. But yeah, you can enjoy that and a lot of other songs.
It's a phenomenal album. I will tell you, I love it. And it's in heavy rotation on my my Apple playlist. So you do a great job. And thank you so much for playing that tonight. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so glad you were with us tonight.
I am too, and thank you so much, Stephen. I'm really grateful that I met you and that you just kind of like came on into my life. And Mark, definitely, Steve, share our contacts.
Yep, absolutely.
Talk to you in the process of me trying to stay sane in this book. So yeah.
Sounds great.
Trust me, if he can work with me, he can work with anybody. So let's be honest. So, well, Jennifer, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you very soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. That was pretty awesome. You're up.
Wow, music.
Yeah, that was
fantastic.
I don't even know what to say. That blew my mind. She's just so
amazing,
freaking talented. And believe it or not, I mean, she's doing so much in other areas of her life. I mean, she is just I mean, you hear it often, but she's a superstar in the making. And it's not just from her music. It's just who she is and what she does out there in the world and how she contributes. And I'm just so grateful to know her. I mean, I feel like tonight's been really amazing just because we've had so many great people, sharing what the ripple means to them and the importance of it for their life and how they've leveraged it for their own connections. I mean, what have you taken away so far, Mark?
I think the diversity of the people that you've had on is a real testament to the breadth and the power of the ripple, because it's not like we're getting the same person over and over again, right? Like you just think about just the really unique personalities that have been on here and the way that they've taken this concept and been able to apply it and benefited from it and used it to benefit other people to look vastly different.
Yeah.
And that's really fascinating.
Well, I mean, you're a big part of that. And, you helped tease this idea and this concept out of me 15 years ago. I cannot believe it's been 15 years ago. I was looking the other day. I think we started going to that leads group, that, networking group in like mid 2002, probably. And
sounds about right.
When we started to work together on this concept, I never thought it would go as far and as wide as it has. And I'm just so grateful. Like, it's pretty amazing to see just how people have taken it and kind of adapted it and made it their own and been able to leverage it. But more importantly, how people are so open to it and how it makes a difference out there in the world. And so I'm super grateful for it.
It's, like we were talking about earlier, it's there are certain ideas that are the product of their times and they become dated pretty quickly. And I think one of the fascinating things about this is that has not been the case. We've seen changes in technology, we've seen changes in society, we've seen changes in economy. And through all of that, not only has the ripple endured, but if anything, I would argue that it's become more relevant and more powerful for people. And that is pretty phenomenal. That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Where else does that happen? So I think it speaks to the testament of, that authentic vision that you had, that I'm honored that I got to have a part in helping you maybe crystallize how you were going to phrase it. But, ultimately you live it out for people every day. And that's been a huge component of the impact that it's had.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Definitely. It's a lot of fun. I never expected it to be quite as powerful as it has become, but it's humbling every single day to see where this concept has gone. And we're not done yet. I mean, we got a lot more to do. For those of you joining for the live stream tonight, I mean, we're celebrating the release of the 3rd edition of the Ripple Effect. New ideas, new strategies, more content, more Ripple stories. We're really proud of this book because it has so much to offer. Whether you're trying to make a difference in your personal or your professional life, you're looking at this pandemic a little bit differently, how to connect and engage in this very unique time period that we're in. We really feel like we put our best work here, and Mark was a big part of that. Mark Schwartz. If you're ever thinking about writing a book, this is the guy you need to know. We're gonna get you a lot of clients tonight, Mark. I'm just telling you.
I know. We'll see.
But when we released the first book, I mean, I gotta introduce this next guest because he was 7 when we introduced this book, and now he's he's participating in our happy hour as we consume a few adult beverages during this broadcast. But I'm bringing on Zach Harper, who is, let's just say there are very few things that you can say in the world that you accomplish. Writing a book is certainly one, getting married, staying married is another one. But when you have kids, it takes your life to a completely different level. And this young man is, I don't want to go too deep because I'll get too emotional, but he is the every bit, best parts of me and his mom that you could possibly imagine. He's gone out and done amazing things with his life. And part of the reason I wrote this book originally was I wanted to give the boys a manual on how to go out and treat people. And they, without question, have all done this. But Zach, especially, as he's finishing his college career here in a few short weeks, he's doing amazing things with his own life. He's ridiculously smart, and he's ridiculously attuned to what people need and what they are. And he helps me want to be a better man every single day. So Zach, thanks for joining the live stream tonight.
Well, thank you for the ridiculously impressive intro. I don't know how I could possibly, follow up the last person. That was incredible. The guitar performance.
Are you going to sing?
I'm sorry?
All right. Will you sing?
Ooh, I don't know. I can't really sing.
I mean, you are wearing a Willie Nelson inspired t-shirt.
Damn.
Nice.
So
very nice. I do want to say, by the way, since, Zach, I've known you for a long time too. Something that your dad left out, you are also way better at fantasy football now than he ever has been or probably ever will be. It's been impressive. Like you passed him, I think, when you were about 13, but you just kept going. And I mean, it's at this point you scare me in our league. You're like one of the big dogs. So
well, all I have to say is I've beat both of you this season. So I know beating him my dad last week, so that was awesome. But I beat you week 1, so we're getting up there. I think I have the best record in the league. I'm probably going to lose tonight, but that's just a part of the game.
Well, I can say that if you haven't paid your fantasy football league fees to me yet, you may be your season may be over.
I have paid, and you would love to have my team. I mean, you're sitting at a cool 0-7, I believe, no wins.
I am trying to be the New York Jets. That's what I'm trying to be. And I'm accomplishing what I set out to do. Absolutely. Well, let's move on to something else. My fantasy football team. So Zach, you've gotten to see the Ripple firsthand. Unfortunately, the funny thing, Mark, that I hear a lot, my wife reminds me, and the boys occasionally remind me, that when I get home, everybody else got the Ripple man they get my normal, I'm introverted, shy, or moody self, right? And so, but you know, what's interesting is how you've picked up these little specific nuggets of, you know, rippling and the importance of it. Your academic career and how you've connected with your professors and the different opportunities that you've been presented, the ripple played a part in that. You know, maybe you could share a little bit about that and kind of what it means to you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, don't be fooled. This man is not an introvert. He might claim it, but he is not.
I am.
I mean, he's the kind of guy that will show up to the office wearing what was that costume you wore the other day?
It was a bear, Herbie the Happy Bear.
Yeah, Herbie the Happy Bear. He's walking around. He's not an introvert. He's the first to goof around with anybody. But no, I mean, I will say, you know, I've been, you know, how do I put this? I've been exposed to the ripple from a very young age. Like he said, 7 years old was when the first edition of the book came out. But for all those years that passed by until probably when I was, you know, in my later years in high school or even into my college years, that I actually recognized it when it was happening. I would recognize, you know, rippling at its core. And I especially can say that that is something that's happened since I've been in college. When I got to college, you know, my goal was to be a different person than I was in high school. High school, I was very extroverted. That's just who I am by nature. I'm a very, you know, I'm a people person. And that's, I get that directly from my dad. But, you know, in college, I really wanted to take advantage of the time that I had, the opportunities that I got, the people that I met. And that's a testament to, you know, what he's taught me and the principles that he teaches in his book and his speaking gigs and his videos, everything that he does. He lives and breathes the ripple. You know, he doesn't ripple all the time, especially after hours, because he's terrorizing me and my brother, but we love him. We deal with it. My mom deals with it. So, but I mean, he's right. One of the things was, you know, I was very unhappy after my first year of college, and I really wanted to transfer away from the university that I was at, which I'm still at today, the University of New Mexico. It's where he had gone, and he's from Albuquerque originally, so kind of was following in his footsteps a little bit, and it was kind of cool to get to do that. But I really wasn't happy. I didn't push myself super far to meet people, to have those experiences my first year as much as I could have. And on a side note, I did, you know, I was trying to meet people. I was trying to do these things, but I wasn't happy. And that was because I really wasn't, you know, pushing myself as far as I know that I can. And then he had a conversation after I tried to transfer with a professor at UNM that he happened to meet at my orientation. He met him through, you know, Twitter. There's a ripple immediately. He got me in contact with this professor, and this professor basically told me I was an idiot if I tried to leave. Not really, but he basically told me that I had a good opportunity that if I stayed, and I took advantage of what a smaller school had to offer versus a bigger university. So I listened to him. I didn't get into the university I wanted to, so I stayed. I just saw what would happen. I was ready to transfer again if it didn't go the right way, but I didn't. And he got me some really, really cool opportunities. I got to be a part of his course, really enjoyed what I was learning. He gave me the opportunity to, as a sophomore in college, to work with a senior level class. And I got to work on a campaign, which led to a really cool opportunity with getting to travel out to Los Angeles to present to Acura executives. I mean, that was one of the coolest experiences I've had. And it was incredible. And then that eventually led to another opportunity where I got to travel to Las Vegas.
Wait. We have to interrupt this, you know, this thing here that you're sharing to remind everybody you won the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. I mean, it was really intimidating. We just we had to create a whole advertising campaign, a student run.
Mark, you would love this.
Yeah. We just had to create an advertising campaign. A part of this competition, we are competing against, I want to say 30 other universities across the country from coast to coast. And then the top 3 were selected to travel to Los Angeles based on the proposals, based on the campaign that you put together, the results that you had. And we ended up being one of the 3. So we got the opportunity to present this campaign in front of a panel of judges, which consisted of their chief marketing executive at Acura. I think one of their parent companies, Honda. So the top ranking executive from Japan was there, which was really intimidating. But I mean, in the moment was just like, you know what, just going to do it. And I took advantage of that opportunity, and it was really, really cool. But it's directly connected to the Ripple. I mean, it started off with a simple conversation after my orientation between my dad and a professor. They stayed in touch over the course of a year. And then this professor got me this opportunity to work alongside his class. And, I was the youngest one in that class, but, I just took advantage of that opportunity, and it ended up being really, really cool and really beneficial.
And that rippled you to Vegas for Adobe.
It did, yes. So UNM became an Adobe creative campus where they partnered with Adobe to offer the Creative Cloud suite of applications to all students for free. So I ended up attending the kickoff event because I guess it was the individuals that were hosting the event at our university they knew about our campaign that we did with Acura. They knew that we had done a good job. We won the competition, and we had used the Adobe applications. But long story short, there was 2 Adobe employees there, and I got the opportunity to speak with them. And one of them just said, you seem like a pretty cool guy. He's like, send me a portfolio by 8 p.m. tonight. It was 6 p.m. I didn't have a portfolio, so I rushed home, made a portfolio, and sent it over to him. And he responded within 5 minutes and was like, "You're going to Vegas." I was like, "Sweet." So got the opportunity to go to their worldwide sales conference in Las Vegas a couple months before COVID. It's crazy, different world back then.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just crazy, just how one thing led to another, and then to another thing, and the ripple.
That's awesome. The interesting thing about that is, you look at all the different doors of opportunity that open to you. I mean, you made those opportunities. Nobody had a hand in that. You actually had, I might have connected you with a professor, but you had to leverage that connection, and you had to take it forward. And, the Acura opportunity, the Adobe opportunity, all that stuff came because you were willing to take a chance. And you are way more extroverted than I ever was at your age, I promise you. And to this day, you're more extroverted than me. So, but you do that because you attract those opportunities, because you're willing to open those doors, or when those doors of opportunity are open to you, you're willing to walk through them, I should say, because you are willing to take advantage and to leverage those, which is why you got noticed. And you have so many great connections from Acura and Adobe, and you haven't even graduated yet, which, those will open up additional doors of opportunity, I think, post-COVID.
Let's hope. I've been keeping in touch with them, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah. But I mean, Mark, you've seen him grow up, right? So yeah. It's like, how crazy is it to see how he's advanced?
Well, and honestly, like I just as Zach, as you've been talking, I've been watching your dad, and I mean, just, the pride that he has, justifiably, in what you've done at so young an age is just, it's so apparent, and it's so great to see. Like I tearing up here just watching that, because, it's just like, it really is you guys have a great relationship. And I agree with him. I think that, like the best parts of your dad and your mom, are so evident in you and what you've done so far. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for you, because I think it's just really limitless. And, one of the things that really appealed to me, I guess, in starting the project, because, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Steve, but, I'm pretty picky about like who I'm going to do a book project with, because over the years I've learned that, it really is a pretty intimate experience. Like, you get to know people.
Yeah.
And so it's like taking a really long train trip with somebody. You better be pretty sure that this is somebody that you're going to enjoy the journey with, because otherwise it's going to be pretty painful for everybody involved. And so one of the things that sort of reassured me at the beginning was when you were talking and giving me some early drafts of some of the content. Right from the beginning, what was so central to your motivation for the ripple effect was the relationship with your own dad, Steve, and the impact that he had on your life and the model that he had been for you, and this desire to, to sort of live up to that. And that's been a great thing to watch ever since. And I sort of see that replicated here across the next generation. And that makes me really, really happy. It's just, you guys are just an absolutely great duo. And, I'm excited, now that you're going to be out of school, whatever path you chart, like what you guys end up sort of doing together, because I got to feel like somehow there's some synergy there in the future, and that'll be exciting to see too.
Well, he basically runs my marketing now, but now I'm now gonna have to pay him when he graduates. I mean,
yeah, maybe you won't be running around in a bear suit, because.
No, I probably will. I mean, I'll still do it.
I don't think there's any stopping him.
Maybe he'll do it more often if you're in charge, Zach. Maybe that's the other.
I'm the as I always tell people here at the company, it's like I'm the CDG. I'm the chief dumb guy. I hire really great people, and he's obviously one of them. And I know we won't be able to keep him forever. And, this is not his path necessarily, this particular direction we've headed with, own 2 software companies in addition to Ripple. But there's no doubt in my mind, he's going to go out and create something amazing. And I just hope he'll give me a job at some point. That's all I hope for. So, along that line, Zach, I'm going to kind of let you bring in the Hanish boys because, Mark, you're going to kind of love this. These guys, they need their own like show or podcast or something. I'm just going to tell you right now, these are 2 of the most amazing individuals, but this kind of became a ripple how you met Matthew. And, ultimately how you encouraged his dad and I to become friends. But I'm going to add Matt and Joe Hanish from Albuquerque, New Mexico, my hometown, and committed Lobos, and all around good guys.
What's the Lobo symbol? Is it like a... Okay, there we go. I knew something like that. So
it looks like a constipated coyote, but
I haven't learned how to do it. Sorry.
I know
it's too close. It's too close to Texas when you do it that way. Anyway, Zach, introduce the Hanishes.
So in their camera on the right, that is Mr. Matthew Hanish. That was my first friend that I made at UNM, believe it or not. We were roommates for orientation. Cheers to that, Matthew. I bought him that little Yeti coaster here in Austin. So he's representing out there. And then next to him is his dad, Mr. Joe Hanish. He's a great guy. He welcomed me into his home for the first Super Bowl that I was away from home for. But Ripple and the owner insight. That's awesome. But funny story that I don't even think my dad knows is the first time Matt and I met was I walked into our little dorm room that we were in, right? And he was like, "Hey, I'm Matthew." He's like, "Are you Zachary?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Zachary. Are you Matthew?" "Oh, wait, obviously you're Matthew." Meet each other. He's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm not from here. I'm from Austin." But this guy, being a New York Yankees fan, lame, he thought I said Boston. So he immediately hated me because he was like, he hates the Boston Red Sox. And he's like, "Oh, this guy's from Boston. Oh." So he was telling his girlfriend, his friend, about how I'm from Boston, but I'm really from Austin. Then he figured out that I was from Austin, not Boston. Funny story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, welcome, Matt and Joe.
Thanks for having us, Steve. Appreciate it.
I have to share a story because I will tell you that the Hanish family is probably one of the nicest, most genuine group of people you could possibly ever meet. They have like 74 Joes in their family. It's pretty incredible. But
it's true.
The first time I got to meet them, it was for an MMA fight. And I got to go with Zach and his girlfriend over. That was the first time I met you, Matt, right? Yeah. So we go there, and every single person, I swear to God, that came up and introduced themselves was a Joe. And I'm like, this is, there's no possible way. And they're like, No, we're all Joe. I mean, it just makes it easier. It's simple. And then his dad shows up and he walks up and he's like, "Hi, I'm Joe." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Another Joe out of like 16 people." It was, all these Joes, but they were the most amazing, friendly people you could possibly imagine. And what was really amazing for me, when Kathy and I sent Zach back to Albuquerque, when he went to school, we knew he did not necessarily want to go there. That was kind of a direction he made the choice. He decided he would go there for that first year, but he didn't really like it. It wasn't his thing. But one of the things that I think that really kept him there was not the connection to the professor, but I think it was Matthew that really had a big part in that. I mean, you meet people in your life that you just know are going to be lifelong friends. Mark, you and I are that way. Joe, you and I are that way. And your son is my son, right? He's just, we're family. And that's the coolest thing that you could possibly ever ask for. And it was the greatest gift we could actually have for our son to go back, to know that there were going to be people watching out for him, looking out for him, bringing them into his, their home and making sure he's taken care of. And it was really, really reassuring to know that we had such great people that were kind of, being there in our absence, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I was a little sad when, Zach had admitted he wanted to go back to UT, and I knew he'd always wanted to go into UT, and he definitely deserved to get into UT. Can't believe he got rejected twice, but
they're idiots.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful, for Zach's friendship and the ripple effect that's kind of happened. You talk what this event is about. Ever since I met Zach, him and I just hit it off instantly. I mean, it was crazy. I felt like I had known Zach my whole life the minute he stepped into that dorm room. And we kind of, funny story too, is we disconnected that fall semester. We had no classes together. We just kind of met that one day. We exchanged contact info, and that was it. And it turned out to be one day in November when we were registering for our freshman year spring semester.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he texted me and he's like, "Oh, do you need to take I think it was macroeconomics with one of the best professors we've ever had." And I was like, "Yeah, I need to take that class." Like, "Well, I'm taking it at this time." And I was like, "Cool, I'll take it. I'll have a friend in that class." And then, that led to Zach and I going to all the Lobo basketball games on the weekends. And then that led to me meeting another friend through Zach. And then that led to us going on a trip to Taos. And then that kind of, expanded Zach and I's friendship to the sense where he kind of helped me become more of the adventurous type. And I saw what he was doing with the photography and everything. And I kind of got into that, and I've kind of made it my own thing. And I've kind of taken that step and, we've picked each other's brains a lot. We recently just competed in a national sales competition, which we probably should have won, but that was also rigged. So, but no, it goes back to, the same goes for you guys. The Harper family, I've been out to Austin twice, and it was actually the same night at the MMA fight where Zach was trying to go to a Longhorns game, and they were playing West Virginia, and it was going to be a pretty good game because that was when the Longhorns and the Mountaineers were ranked. And Steve was like, "Oh, you should come out for the game." And I was like, "Well, I got to see with my dad." And my dad comes over and he sees you and you guys start talking. I was like, "Well, can I go?" He's like, "Yeah, buy your plane ticket. You got a place to stay." And so, like you guys said, you guys are family, and we're very grateful for you. And we're excited that you're bringing your third book into published, and it's big and exciting news.
Yeah, Mark. In case you don't notice, they're all sporting the new hat. So we got to get you one.
Yeah, I saw that. I needed just to, protect this now.
I've known Mark so long. He actually had hair when we started writing the book.
That is true.
I'm pretty
I had hair before we finished this edition. That's true.
Absolutely. So, the unique thing about this is, what was kind of cool is our two boys got together, but then Mr. Hanish and I just hit it off. We went to a basketball game together. We had a few beers, and we had a good time, just shooting the bull and talking sports and just amazing. This guy's like one of the smartest guys I know, without question. And
only when I'm asleep, man.
Come on. When you describe to people what you do, you say, I would tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
I'd have to, yeah. Don't ask him what he does, because it's highly secretive. But he's an important guy to know in the event you ever get into trouble. But no, it's been pretty amazing, and I kind of wanted to wrap this whole thing up because I think that it comes full circle, right? With this, with the relationship that Zach developed with Matthew and we've developed as families. That's the ripple, right? The whole process and the approach has been pretty fun to watch, but it's been even better to experience. And the neat thing about this is, I get these random texts from Joe about, hey, I'm wearing your hat out, and he's got my other company hat. He loves that hat, and hopefully likes the new hat too. But he's just so appreciative of the fact that, we've got this connection, and at any point during the week, I can count on, one of us is going to text one another, and it's amazing because we don't get to see each other or drink beer all that often, but we've created a quick bond and friendship that is, it's just, strong as family. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I want to say thanks, Mark, and it's good to meet you, by the way, but Harper family has been really, really good for my family and my son. Cause, kind of Zach and Matthew kind of had the same high school, and it's kind of when Matthew met Zachary, he kind of pushed Matthew to look at other things, right, that life has to offer, and kind of made him a dynamic thinker. And I think, there's always a reason why why certain people come into your lives, and I think that was a reason, because and Zach, thanks for that, because I have to say, high school for my son Matthew was pretty tough. In a lot of respects, right? But like these boys, even though high school is a struggle for them now, I look back at a lot of like quote unquote friends and people my son used to hang out with, and Zach's graduating in December, and Matthew's graduating in May, and I got to say, man, they're probably the only ones I know from a group of friends that are actually graduating, when all these other guys that were, badass in school, they're struggling, and so you can't. What I've learned in my life is you can't just base your life on high school. You can't base your life on grade school. You can't base your life even now. You just have to take it one day at a time, and you meet people like Zach and Mr. Harper there that are true, that change people's lives and can kind of be an inspiration and a guide to give people confidence to reach that next level. Yeah, because you're held so far, like you as you grow up. You meet bullies, you meet people, oh, you can't do that, or you're not cool enough, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it takes one or two people to change your life. And Zachary, thank you. You've given the confidence to my son that he's now a dynamic thinker, and he thinks outside the box, and he's got a known confidence that I hadn't seen since college has been good. You've been good for him, and Mr. Harper, thank you. Sometimes I'm down and out, and I'll text Mr. Harper, man, I'm just beat up today, man. What's going on? I said, so it was a natural fit, and every day is I'm thankful for that, and so I can see how you've and Mark there have been good friends, and I'm hoping that as the boys are graduating and stuff, that moving forward, that we're all going to stay close, and we're all, we got to be there for each other, because that's all we have, really. And then, you just move on, you learn from other people. And I've learned so much from the Harper family. And for the most part too, and this ripple effect is that Mr. Harper's given me confidence in making me a better person and having more confidence at work. So it's been overall positive. It's been a positive relationship and stuff, and I'm looking forward to continuing that relationship.
Yeah.
I appreciate that very much. I mean, you guys are amazing. I mean, Mark, you probably can see why we're big fans of the Hanisch clan. I mean, they're very, amazingly humble, incredibly heartfelt individuals that we're just really lucky to know. And it's funny because you look at it and, Joe, you said it exactly right. There are relationships that come in and, they come and they go, but the ones that are important, you have to fight for, and you have to make sure you hold on to. And there's no doubt in my mind that, Matthew and Zachary are going to they're lifelong friends, right? And just as we are. And we'd be there for you in a heartbeat on any level. And that's the key, I think, to really strong, great, positive relationships. And I don't think people are good at expressing that anymore. I don't think that they're really good at looking for that anymore. And I think that sometimes they need to be reminded that that's what life is about. It's not the success or the money or, all those other trappings that I think people tend to shoot for. I think it comes down to the richness of the relationships that you make along the way that really make the biggest difference. I mean, at least that's my perspective.
Absolutely. And kind of to branch off that, I will say, knowing Zach, he's kind of pushed me and encouraged me to kind of step out of my comfort zone a little bit. I know there was a time where I was going through some struggles at work a couple of years back, and I was, talking to Zach a whole lot about that, and even you a little bit too, Steve. And just kind of just stick with it, stick with the men, and talking with my dad and between you guys, you guys helped me get through that dark spot in my life. Just stick with it. It's tough right now. Nothing's going to be perfect, but you just got to find a way to make a positive out of a very negative situation. And I was able to do that. And because of that, I'm in a very good position to set myself up when I graduate and for life going forward. So if there's one thing that I've learned from this friendship is step out of your comfort zone. But if you do find yourself in a sticky, negative situation, try and find the best way to make the best of it. And then you'll be able to, make a good thing happen out of it. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for your situation, there were people that were intimidated by how smart and how good you are at what you do. And that's a challenge. And you guys will all figure that out as you go into the working world, that you're a threat to a certain degree to guys my age, for sure, that never want to admit that they don't have all the answers or they don't understand what's going on. But the reality is that, you keep showing up, doing a good job, and you allow people to be the critics that they're going to be, because that's just the kind of way that some people are raised or the way that they've kind of grown accustomed to working or operating in the world. But if you show up and you're authentic and you do the best job that you possibly can, and you're the best possible representation of yourself, which you always are, Matt. I mean, I just think the world of you, and clearly think the world of Zach as well. And, you guys are going to do great, great things in the world. When you do that, sometimes the doubters become your biggest fans. And it doesn't seem like in the moment that is easy to get to. But I've been there, and I some of my biggest detractors are probably some of my biggest proponents today, which is pretty amazing to see. But you do that because you're authentic and you show up and you do the best possible job you can, and you never let that doubt ever creep in to the point where it derails you from what your ultimate goal is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Mark, you have any questions for us? I mean, we probably gave you a lot of stuff there, but not to put you on the spot, but I mean,
are we writing another book already?
We're close. I'm working on the other book right now, so you're not escaping me yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a question. I guess an observation maybe. There's so much negativity in the world right now, right? Doing this, especially on the eve of what is likely to be the most contentious election in our lifetime.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what happens or which side you support, right? We're in the middle of this pandemic that, who knows how much longer we have. We've got economic turmoil. We've just got all of this stuff out there. And, I think that the Ripple and what you've done and what your connection here exemplifies, is this kind of like fundamentally optimistic view of the world. It's refreshing. It's that, there are a lot of things that we can't control that are they're real and they're going to impact people. And we've heard some of those stories tonight. But investing in those relationships and having people that you hold close, that's something that is the most valuable thing that, you can really have in this world. And it sustains you through the hard times and it makes the good times that much better. And so, again, I think that there's a reason why the Ripple has been successful. I think there's a reason why people respond to you, Steve. And I think that, we're seeing this sort of, perpetuated into the next generation, and it's exciting and it's gratifying. And it's, I think, vindicating of everything that we started talking about, close to 20 years now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the funny thing I think about, as you look at tomorrow and beyond, everybody's got to get back together and everybody's got to find a way to come together, because regardless of the outcome, doesn't matter. What puts the country back on track and what ultimately is going to get, things back to where it should be is the fact that we can overlook all of our differences and still come together and recognize other people for their opinions and feel like we have the ability to share, collective thought, right? And be able to do it in a way that allows us to feel like we're not only expressing what's important to us, but at the same time, we're also hearing what's important to somebody else. And, when we wrote when you and I came back together to, really get serious about getting this third edition out, it was like the time was now, because there were signs that there was a lot of challenges ahead. And this will not be, regardless of the outcome of tomorrow or what happens with the pandemic, this will not be the only challenge that we face in the next 5-10 years. And we felt like at the time that this was the opportune, the opportunity and the chance to get these concepts a little bit further out there. I told somebody today that was talking to me about an article for the book, and I said, the reason we wanted to do this is these methodologies, these strategies, these ideas that we have are necessary and needed now more than ever. And I think regardless of what happens tomorrow or in the next week or 3 weeks or whatever, however long it's going to take for the election, we all have to be able to come back together and we all have to get to work and we have to figure out how to keep moving forward. Because regardless of political affiliation, there's a big battle ahead, which is the virus and getting businesses back to, pointed in the right direction, getting, families healthy, and ultimately everybody pointed in the right direction. And that only happens if we can come together. And that would be the biggest ripple we could create, really, at the end of the day. So, I think that this whole evening has really showed the power of the concept. It's good. It's humbling and it's amazing to see how many people came on this. And to the Anishes, thank you so much for coming on to this. I mean, there was a reason we wanted you guys to be the closers here. I mean, God knows the Cubs need a closer.
So it's all good.
No, we think the world of you guys. And I think anybody that may watch this on the rebroadcast, it's important that people recognize no matter where you come from or what you do, everybody can find a way to be friends, and everybody can, and in certain respects, you can find a way to be family. And I think that's the greatest thing of this whole process is, you never know unless you try, and you certainly will never know if you don't try. And that's a big factor that I think a lot of people, it's lost on a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
Mark, you have any closing thoughts?
I think that's a great one, Steve, right there. I mean, I think that, I just echo that this is a message that people need to hear now more than ever for a whole variety of reasons. And I think that there are things that are not in our control, and there are things that are within our control. Choosing to initiate ripples is something that's within our control. How those ripples impact other people, how they impact us, fate decides that, right? But what we've seen again and again through the stories of the people in the book and the stories of the people who've been on the broadcast tonight is that if you put it out there, good things happen for other people and for yourself. And so, it's really just about being willing to take that risk, I think, and to step out in the faith that by putting something good into the universe, you are doing something that is going to have really positive repercussions for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this. I really, really do appreciate it. I guess in one last closing thought, just show up and be the kind of people you are. I mean, you set the example and you set the bar really high. All four of you guys, I'm just honored to know you. And, I'm so blessed by your friendship, and I'm grateful for you coming into my life and setting the bar high for me to shoot for, and for creating your own positive ripples every single day. I mean, you guys are amazing. Every one of you on this call, everybody that came tonight, everybody that showed up, shared stories, everybody that was, willing to take a little bit of time out of their day to celebrate this, pretty big deal for us. I really appreciate. And, I guess probably, we probably need one group cheers, right?
Cheers.
We didn't even ask you, what are you guys drinking?
Well, my dad has a busy day at work tomorrow, so he elected not to, but I'm drinking on behalf of him. So I got the social hour.
The social
Santa Fe is the last one in the fridge. I got to go get more. But
Mark, you would love that beer. It's fantastic.
Super Santa Fe Brewing. All right.
It's a hazy wit style brew with tropical fruit.
Yeah.
You have to get, Zach was telling me they sell the 7K IPA in Austin. So I don't know if Mark lives out in Austin, but you should get him a 6-pack of that. He'd really like it.
Absolutely. 7K is at HEB, but I'll get you a 6-pack for sure, Mark, when we get together.
Okay.
And we're drinking St. Arnold's IPA.
Awesome.
Hard car. All right.
So this is a Pumpkinhead.
Oh yeah. Oh, Shipyard. Yeah. How do you like it?
Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's been my go-to this year.
What's the one that we just had, Zach, that you really liked? That was the pumpkin.
Well, you like the Dogfish Head one, but the one that I found is at Trader Joe's. It's called the Howling Gourds. It's real good. Matt can speak to that. He's had it.
Yeah. Do you go to Trader Joe's very often, Mark? So they have that beer there, and it's delicious.
Super good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That'll be an excuse to go.
He's a pumpkin guy, so he loves that.
Pumpkin season is coming to a close, so you gotta enjoy it while you got it.
I think it's officially over, right? As of
yeah.
Dang.
Now it's gingerbread season.
Yeah. Which is just not as cool. Let's just be honest. I mean, it's just
way cooler.
Yeah. No. Gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Ripple on, boys. Ripple on.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.